everybody. Welcome to Barn Burner, Flames Nation's summer show. It's a presentation of Bet365, and Canada just hit the biggest home run of the summer because Bet365 is now available in Alberta and here to stay. Download the app, must be 19 plus. Please play responsibly. And hey, folks, while you're with us, this is a presentation of McLeod Law. Visit them at McLeodLaw.com, McLeod-Law.com, here in the McLeod Law studio. So excited to have you along with us. Well, welcome everybody to another edition of Barn Burner, and I suppose this one is really going to be called Barn Burner and Friends because the people who you probably just saw in that intro, they're not here today, unfortunately, but we are. It is me, Mike Gould. It is I, Mike Gould, here with you whenever you are seeing this. As you may find this out during the course of the show. We're not really doing this live. We're here to sort of fill in space for you, but we're here to do whatever we can to make this an entertaining part of your day. Mike Gould, once again, along with our buddy Bobby Germany, Robert Munich.
What's going on? Am I getting punked right now? Am I on Barn Burner?
You're on Barn Burner.
Am I on the biggest sports podcast in the city of Calgary right now?
I mean,
it feels like I'm getting kind of punked right now.
You're on Barn Burner and Friends.
Okay,
you're on
yes.
like the
special edition.
They're base sell, and we're kind of like, I can't believe it's not butter.
Right.
It's kind of like, just a little lowbrow.
Right. Not quite as real as the real stuff.
We're doing our best.
Mm-hmm.
It is the summer. It is beautiful. If you heard the news off the top, Canada just hit a huge summer home run, Bobby. It's trtrue. And for the reasons of, it's beautiful out. All of our wildfire smoke is being blown down to the States, so we don't have to worry about any of that. It's gorgeous times, and there's no better time to be talking about the Calgary Flames than, of course, in the middle of July.
100%.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff to get into. It's been a somewhat busy offseason for Craig Conroy and company here in Calgary. They have gotten some work done. There's lots to talk about. There maybe hasn't been as much open public discussion of it for various different reasons. And so there's an opportunity for us to get into it here today, Bobby. And I think I just want to sort of start everything off with a temperature check here today. Here we are, middle of July, coming off of a Flames season that I think you could safely say one of the worst seasons they've had in a very long time, a season that was very difficult to watch for large chunks of it, especially near the beginning. What is your overall level of excitement heading into the last year of the Dome?
It's interesting you say that because I actually think that we're now through the worst of the rebuild. I actually think the previous seasons, like the 2024-25 year, 25-26, even the year before that, just watching this team with a bunch of veteran players, they're trying to remain competitive and they're trying to rebuild at the same time. That never works. And watching the team go through that process over the last 3 years here, I think has been really hard to watch. I actually thought last year it might have been even a little bit more enjoyable because they finally chose a direction. They finally made some trades. They moved out some veterans. And at least from the trade deadline on, they really prioritized young players. And from about March 7th to the end of the year, it was actually kind of exciting to watch Matt Vagridden play on a top line and a top power play unit. Zane Parekh, get top 4 minutes and play on the right side and play on the left side. He's on the first power play unit. Like, that stuff I thought was kind of exciting. And I know in this upcoming season, it's going to be rough. They're going to finish in the bottom 3 again, but they are rebuilding and they are going in younger direction. And I actually think that's going to be really exciting because we're no longer going to be watching these veterans trying to push their way to the playoffs. It's like, okay, there's a real direction. And I think Flames fans are really going to enjoy watching that in this final year at the Dome.
A little later on in the show, we'll have Flames Nation managing editor Ryan Pike, not Ryder Pike, although we could call him Ryder, I suppose. He'll be joining us later on in the show to go over maybe a little bit more of what to expect at the Saddledome in the final year of its existence as an NHL arena. For now, though, Bobby, sort of taking what you said about it being exciting, more exciting as we get into this year, I think one of the big things that I'm thinking about looking into this year is we're not just waiting for the shoe to drop as far as trades that we expect to be on the horizon, players who we know are going to be leaving town. It is still there. It's still an element of, being a seller that will always exist for the Flames until they're ready to turn that corner. By the same token, though, I don't think there's the same level of fervent anticipation, both within the market, league-wide, about Morgan Frost's situation, about Ryan Strome's situation.
Yeah.
These are not sort of foundational players to the level that we might have thought of with Rasmus Andersson, Noah Hannafin, Elias Lindholm, and what have you. And I think that to its own level will make it just more interesting as far as watching what is already in place and as it continues to develop.
I mean, I don't know about you. Did you not get a little sick and tired of just having the trade conversation every single podcast you're on, talking to friends and family? I mean, the last 3 years, that's all we've been able to talk about. I'm kind of
when are
looking
they going to
forward
trade Kadri
to not doing that. Yeah.
No, it's different. It really is different. And I think over the last couple of years, all that trade discussion, that chatter has kind of outcrowded some of the discussions that need to be had about the players who are here, about where they stand in the organization. Because I do think there are some players who have kind of flown under the radar a little bit, just because, well, they're here to stay. They're entrenched in the idea of they'll be part of this team when it's good. But I do think there has to be maybe a little bit of updating of expectations, reevaluating where these players fit into the mix. And I know there's some players we're going to talk about. There's one I just sort of want to ad-lib and go about right away, and that's Matt Coronato, who is coming off a really interesting season. I think a disappointing season. And, I think he is your highest paid forward going forward now. He is the guy who ostensibly is viewed, for better or worse, as of the players who are here in Calgary right now, as maybe being the best bet to be part of that future core. He's the most established of the young guys who are sort of around. Where should the conversation around Matt Coronato be as we go into 26-27?
I'm not worried about him. I know last year, statistically, it was not a good year for him. I don't even think he hit 20 goals, if I'm not mistaken. 18 goals for Matt Coronato. So, yeah, obviously, you want to see him score more goals. But I really thought last year that he was super snake-bitten. I just watching his game, there were so many times where he'd hit a post or a goalie would make an unbelievable save on him, or he'd just kind of barely miss where he's trying to get that puck. And I actually thought overall his game wasn't that bad. I just thought he actually got a little bit unlucky and just didn't get those bounces. And, he's a guy I'm not really worried about. And with the rising salary cap, with some of the salaries that some wingers and forwards are getting these days, I think 6.75 isn't a bad deal for Coronato.
6.5, but yeah.
6.5. I don't think it's that bad of a deal for the next 5 or 6 years here. So, yeah, I'm personally not overly worried about him. And one thing that I think is exciting is that I think he's going to get a chance to play with Morgan Frost and Matt Vegridden for a long stretch of time here. And I think they're going to be able to build some decent chemistry. And I'm not too worried about him. And where are you at with him?
Well, I should say, I'll preface, I think I said Matt Coronato is their highest paid forward, which of course, how are we memory holding Jonathan Huberdeau at 10.5 already? But I mean, goes to show a player spending the last 32 games of the year on the IR can really do a lot to cloud your memory. I am of two minds about Matt Coronato. I'm very reserved about the long term with Matt Coronato. Obviously, right now, he is going to be on your number one power play. He is going to be a focal point. It is concerning to me that Matt Coronato was one of two players, basically, for the Flames, who was a mainstay on the number one power play all last year, and he scored 18 goals.
Right.
Like that, to me, I mean, there are a lot of players who had far fewer opportunities. I look at Joel Farabee, who finished with 20 and got not nearly as much time on the power play. Like, not even close.
Yeah.
Like, that, to me, at least, is a little concerning. Michael Backlund finished with 17 goals this past season. Matt Coronato gets 18. I do agree with you to a certain degree that it is him just having poor finishing luck. But there are a lot of guys on this Flames team who had bad finishing luck.
Yeah, and like one thing I'll ask you is, how much of it do you think is Ryan Huska and his system? How much of it do you think is the lack of talented line mates that he's playing with? I mean, do you think that plays any role into his lack of goal scoring last year?
Absolutely, but everybody on this team's playing under Huska. Like, it's you're comparing apples to apples on this roster, right? Like, I think one of the main issues with Matt Coronato is a lack of coherent deployment. I think. I mean, I honestly, I'm with you on wanting to see him play with Matt Vegridden and Morgan Frost. I would love to see Matt Coronato get an extended stretch of games on a line with Farabee. I think because you want this guy to be more of a possession driver down the line. And this past season, there were 2, 3, 4 Flames forwards who were consistent possession drivers. And then the rest of them kind of just got smoked to varying degrees.
Yeah.
You had the middle-class guys, not the Farabees. Farabee was one of the good ones. You had the Coronatos, the Zaries, the sort of Frost, Sharangovich, who all got sort of smoked a bit.
Yeah.
And then you had Lomberg, Klapka, Beecher, who got smoked a lot. And I think you have the real holdouts are Backlund, Farabee, to an extent, actually, Huberdeau, who posted strong possession numbers. And so to a degree, I'm kind of almost wondering if I just want to see them stick with some lines.
For sure.
That was the thing that I think at the start of last year hurt everybody, was that nobody had a role. And with Matt Coronato, I mean, it just sort of, I guess, depends on how you view him going forward. But at the end of the day, this is a guy who finished the regular season, I think, with 11 even strength goals.
Mhm.
And I mean, for comparison's sake, Sharangovich had 10. Like, that's not good enough.
No,
So-
definitely not.
So that's going into this coming season. That to me is the number one. Where is this guy?
Yeah, and obviously you want him to drive play and you want
Yeah.
to play with play drivers, but at the same time, I also think you want him to play with playmakers. I think you want
Mhm.
him to play with guys that are going to feed him the puck and put him in chances to score, whether it's a one-timer at the side of the net or just. I find Coronado, he has a really like strong ability to find those quiet areas in the ice and get open. And I think a guy like Matt Gridden, I think he's the best passer on the Flames forward unit. I think
Mhm.
he's a better passer than Jonathan Huberdeau is right now. I think Morgan Frost is a really strong playmaker himself. So I kind of like the idea of him playing with those skilled forwards, those guys that can get him the puck, make plays, be creative, and kind of work off that. That's kind of how I would like to see him deployed this year. But you're right. I mean, at the start of last year, he was all over the map. He was a healthy scratch for a game or two. You know, he was third line, fourth line, second line, first line, like he, literally all over the place. And that can't happen again this year. So
I still can't believe he was a healthy scratch.
insane. Absolutely crazy.
But I mean, a lot of the Flames forwards were healthy scratches last year. And that is where at least moving Blake Coleman starts to open up a semblance of a role.
A little bit.
Well, to a degree. I mean, the thing is, we have seen over the last 3-4 years of Flames hockey, only a couple of default forward line combos. Sort of two guys who have been attached at the hip. Coleman, Backlund has been one.
Yep.
And okay, sure, you put Farabee in that spot, make it Backlund Farabee, but who's on the other side? And so that's one thing that I'm really curious to see. I want to go into something similar, and then we did set some topics before the show, but I like where this is flowing, and I just want to go off of something that our buddy Pike wrote a couple days ago, I guess about a week ago now, over at Flames Nation, and this sort of lends directly off of the Matt Coronato discussion, which is, what will the Flames power play look like in 26-27? Because again, a big change where you bring in Simon Nemec, who is a player who is seemingly born to play on the power play. You have Zane Parekh, obviously, who's a guy who the Flames want to play on the power play. There will be lots of opportunity for him there. But of course, we only saw a very small stretch of games last year where Nazem Kadri wasn't on the top unit after the trade. Jonathan Huberdeau missed the last stretch of the year. And while you maybe say the Flames became more watchable down the stretch, their underlines really struggled, or they suffered. And I think things were just in disarray to the point where on the power play, this is maybe an opportunity for them to reset the board a little bit, put new pieces, new faces in different places. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts, Bobby, about where the number one power play starts next year, how Matt Coronato fits into it.
I mean, I think it starts with Zane Parekh. I know they brought in Nemec, and like you said, he does have that power play skill set, but Zane is the guy. Like that's the reason why you drafted him. That's the reason why you brought him into the organization, is to play that quarterback role in the top unit. Like that's his bread and butter. So
it'll be a big storyline.
Now, could you put Nemec? Could you have two defensemen out on the top unit? I don't know if I like that personally.
I wouldn't
either.
Yeah.
But I think the power play starts with Parekh, and then it starts with Gridden, where he can play on the half wall and get off some one-timers, get off that shot, and then also pass the puck. Like I said, I think Gridden is such a talented, skilled playmaker. So I think it starts with those two, and then you kind of just work in other guys. I mean, I think you'll have Morgan Frost on that top unit as a puck carrier, and probably a net front guy, slot guy, and then maybe Coronato is on the other half wall. But the thing with Coronato is, like, he's not a guy that's going to get off one time. He's not going to score one-time goals on the power play. He's more of a walk down the wing and kind of snipe it, or with that kind of patented snapshot he has. So I don't know if the half wall is the best place for him, but maybe net front where he can use his hands and tip pucks, that sort of thing. But I don't think it's a guarantee that Coronato is on that first unit. Personally.
Wow.
Because I mean, just because of the fit, like you were talking about there.
Well, you need to have shooters, and I mean, there aren't a lot. Coronato, I think, has the upper hand. You are paying a lot of money to Yegor Sharangovich.
I was just going to ask you about that. Well, like one thing I would like to see them do next year is maybe prioritize Yegor's game and try to kind of rebuild his value a little bit. What about putting him on the power play where he does one-time pucks? Like, that's a big skill set of his.
Well, and I do think there is a element to the idea of you paid that guy to be a scorer on
Yeah.
the number one power play unit, and you immediately took him off of it.
Mhm.
Which, I mean, I get it. He had a tough start to that year, and he was hurt. And then, Coronato just started playing better. But you're not exactly coming off a year where anybody lit the world on fire.
No.
And yeah, like especially on that power play, where if my numbers tell me the right things here, Sharangovich scored more goals per minute on the power play than anybody last year, playing on PP2.
Yeah.
So, and that was the thing that they also did. I don't know if you noticed this late last year, but on the 5-on-3, when they had 5-on-3s, they always put him on, and they took off. I forget who they took off. I want to say maybe Coleman off the top unit.
Mhm.
And it was interesting because it was more of a possession type of game where they didn't really have anybody crashing the net, and it worked actually relatively well. So that's something that I am kind of curious about. The other guy is Huberdeau.
I was just about to mention him.
Where
what do you do with this guy?
Well, I mean, do you put him in front of the net? Like,
they did that before.
I don't
in that one year when he
yeah.
had 62 points and that was like his best year as a Flame.
Yeah.
He was playing net front and
Yeah.
he was tipping pucks and he was doing that role. The thing though, like with both power play units, you could almost make an argument that there really isn't a true number one unit on this team. And you could have two units that are very similar with Parek on one, Nemec on the other.
Yeah.
And then you got Coronato on one flank and you got Sharangovich on the other.
You got
and then,
8. You basically just need 8 forwards.
Totally.
Who you can put out in different spots.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think Coronato, Gridden, Frost are 3 of them for sure. I think Huberdeau's one for sure. I think Igor's one for sure.
Zary, if he's here.
Zary probably, there aren't many candidates, Bobby.
Yeah.
Like we are going to be seeing, this is not going to be Matthew Tkachuk and Johnny Gaudreau on opposite sides.
Yeah.
It's going to be very different. The one area where I could see 2 defensemen on the top power play working is, maybe down the stretch if Carson Karls comes in. That'd be kind of cool.
Really super
if you had,
interesting.
Zane going down to one of the flanks and having Karls up top, sort of playing the Darren Radish role. But that's a ways out.
Well, and another guy that we haven't really talked about is Hunter Brzustewicz too.
Yeah.
And if they want to work him into the lineup, I think in order for him to be effective, I do think he needs to play on the power play. So maybe you have a Nemec and Brzustewicz on like a second unit kind of thing.
Mhm.
That's potentially another option too.
That's a good idea. All 3 of those guys are righties, Bobby.
Yeah.
I mean, Nemec, Brzustewicz, and Parek, and you got to find uses for all 3 of them. And that's really interesting because what are you going to put Ryan Strome on over Brzustewicz?
No, definitely.
Like I think Ryan Strome is a guy maybe you throw on the PK. But yeah, I think he fancies himself more of a Matt Stajan at this point. And the Flames, I mean, you were putting some stuff out this week comparing the 2026-27 Flames to the 2013-14 Flames, a team on which I believe Matt Stajan was on the power play.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, talk about the similarities. I don't know if we have those graphics handy, but I mean, just some of the names: Lee Stempniak, Mike Camilleri, David Jones. I mean,
Curtis Glencross. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I mean, this is an awfully similar forward group, Bobby.
Oh, it is. Well, and the reason I put that out there on Flames Nation is because both teams were in the similar situation where they're essentially in year 1 of the rebuild. They have traded all the veterans out, and this is kind of the lineup that you're stuck with now. And I think they're very similar. Really, the only glaring differences between the two is that the 13-14 team had Giordano Brody, which was an elite pair at the time, and the 26-27 Flames has elite goaltending. Per Kevin Woodley, who's one of the great goaltending analysts out there.
Gotta get him on the show.
He said on Sakaris and Price's Nation Network show out of Vancouver that the Flames, according to adjusted metrics, they had the best goaltending in the NHL last year, and Devin Cooley was the best goalie in the NHL. When it comes to rates. So there's definitely some similarities there. I think the 26-27 team is a little bit better than that one, but
here it is. Here's the comparison.
Take a look at that. Sven Berchi, TJ Gagliardi.
I don't think Sven played that entire season on that line. I think he played there for maybe 20 games.
This was from opening night when they played the Washington Capitals. That's kind of where I
remember
got the
that
lineup from.
David Jones, I believe, scored the first goal of that season.
They got out to an early 4-1 lead, and then they lost in overtime.
I was always a big David Jones guy. I had a jersey.
He was all right.
He was fine. That line with him and Stajan and Furland, that line won them a playoff series.
Absolutely.
I'll always have my heart for that. Yeah, I mean, I maintain that the Flames team from 2 years after this might have snuck into a wild card spot had Kari Ramos stayed healthy. Remember that injury down the stretch? He never played another NHL game after that.
It was a devastating injury,
I believe, a hip.
It was horrible to watch.
It was against the Sharks. That was the Jonas Hiller game, if you'll recall.
Didn't Hiller come in and save the day, and they won in overtime? I
remember watching that game live. Jonas Hiller came in cold. He looked absolutely crazy shaky. but he made a number of ridiculous saves.
Yeah, I think like 2 or 3 like
Yeah.
highlight reel insane saves.
He
and
was-
ended up winning the game.
Like, he came in and you're like, okay, this almost feels like a David Ayers situation at this point, because Jonas Hiller that year, I remember looking into this back in the day, and I don't know if it's still true, but I remember at the time, Jonas Hiller that year had an 879 save percentage, which these days isn't that bad. It's bad, but it's not that bad.
It was bad back then.
Back then, it was terrible.
Yeah.
And I remember doing some math at the time, very circumstantial math, but at the time, Jonas Hiller played 26 games that year. And of all goaltenders who had 25 games played that year, the next worst had a 901. And he had an 879.
Yikes.
And I looked back, and the gap between those bottom two guys, 22 percentage points, was the largest in NHL history.
Oh my God.
Jonas Hiller putting an 879 in 2016 is like kind of posting like an 840 today.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God.
So
Yeah.
I just pulled up that game in San Jose.
Yeah.
So yeah, Hiller comes in late. I think the Flames were on they're defending a 5-on-3. So they were on the penalty
Yeah,
kill,
it was something like that.
and he made a couple unbelievable saves on the 5-on-3, and then Chris Russell scored late,
Oh,
and then the
man.
Flames won in a shootout.
In a shootout. Yeah,
And it was
yeah.
Yuri Hudler who won the game, I think, on like a little half clapper.
Yeah, that was
it might have been.
shortly before the trade deadline.
Yeah.
And of course, that year,
February 11th.
prior to 2024, was the largest Flames trade deadline sell-off basically ever. They traded Yuri Hudler to Florida for a second and a fourth, I want to say.
Chris Russell
to
Dallas.
Dallas for one of the many picks in the last 10 years that is not converted due to a condition that turned into a second-round pick, which they used on a guy who's playing for the Blues now. We're not going to say his name. Plus Brett Pollock, plus Jyrki Jokipaka, who I believe is featured on flamesnation.ca today. And of course, who am I forgetting? Jones to Minnesota for sixth-round pick that they used on Matthew Phillips and Nicholas Backstrom, who played in 4 games for them. And of course, 8 years later, they made a lot more trades. We're going to talk about Hunter Brzustewicz a little bit. This is one of your topics, Bobby. Before we do this, though, this is coming out from Brad Elliott Schlossman at the Grand Forks Herald right now, which if you're watching this in the next couple days, we'll give you a time as to when we're recording this. Flames second-rounder Chase Harrington had NCAA interest for 26-27, but it sounds like he will return to WHL Spokane this season. So the Flames prospect pipeline out of their 26 draft class, their statuses for the upcoming season becoming a little clearer across the board. Looking forward to seeing how that goes. Speaking of young players, Hunter Brzustewicz, not as young as Chase Harrington, a third rounder in his day, not a second rounder, but a guy who I think has developed into a very steady young defenseman in the NHL. And yet, Bobby, the Calgary Flames continue investing significant assets into the right side of their defense.
Well, yeah, between Nemec, you got Henry Muse coming up. Obviously, Zane's there. And then, and Hunter Brzustewicz. I mean, they're absolutely loaded on the right side of the young defenseman. And, I don't know if I want to call him the odd man out, but if you're going to keep Zane on the right side, which is a possibility, there's really no room for Hunter Brzustewicz in this lineup right now. So I was curious to get your thoughts on how do you think they should use him this year? Because you're right. We did a bunch of afterburners last year where you and I talked and we both said to ourselves,
this guy's playing great.
He's playing a really smart, composed game.
Yeah.
Very poised with the puck, making a lot of great plays. I was very impressed with him. But when you have Nemec, Parekh, and Whitecloud on the right side right now, how are you going to get him into games? And would you be comfortable maybe putting him in the American Hockey League to start next year?
Not really. I mean, I don't think he deserves to be there. I mean, it might be inevitable. It might be just because of the numbers game. But I think if you send Hunter B back to the AHL, it sends not only the wrong message about the player, I think it kind of sends the wrong message about him as an asset. And if I'm in a spot with the Flames where I have a surplus of right-handed D, I just don't know if I want to be telling the league that Hunter Brzustewicz isn't good enough to crack my NHL lineup. And, if you're going to be dealing from that position of strength to maybe address some other areas, which I think is entirely possible with Hunter, I would rather they didn't trade him. I think he's really good. I think he's going to be really good. I see a lot of guys around the league who remind me of Hunter Brzustewicz. I think this is a guy who can absolutely be in a very good NHL defensive group. I think if he hits his ceiling, I see a Shane Gostisbehere type where, really good possession player. I mean, I've been stumping for Gostisbehere for years, and we just saw him win a cup in Carolina as a genuine PP threat. And that is something that I don't think Brzustewicz gets enough credit as being, because he's just so smart. He's got a really good head on his shoulders. He pivots really well, and he finds guys just like that. Yeah. So, I would rather see him on the team. It's going to be really difficult because, again, he's basically by default number 9 on the depth chart because you have 6 guys on one-way contracts plus
Hanley and Pahal.
Well, or it was 7 guys on one-way contracts. Like it's going to be really difficult. So you acquire Jake Middleton. There are fans who are saying, "Oh, we'll just sit him." They're not going to sit him. He's going to play every day. He's going to play every game.
He's a Ryan Huska.
He'll play 20 plus minutes. He'll be Derek Engelland. He'll be in the lineup every night. And so, I think it's really difficult, and I think it is a wonderful luxury to have. I still question the Nemec addition just on that basis. In a vacuum, I think the value is fine. I think the player is good. I just, don't necessarily know if Calgary was the team to do it, but it could end up being very fruitful. So yeah, I mean, I have a lot of questions that I ask myself about Hunter Brzustewicz and what exactly his stature is, because I just don't know.
The thing to keep in mind, though, like, he is 21 years old.
My God, I know.
He's going to be turning 22 in November. He's only played 2 years of professional hockey. Going down to the American Hockey League, in my opinion, I don't think would be the worst thing for a guy who's in his position. And I think when you have a guy that young, you want to play him as much as possible. And if you go down to the Calgary Wranglers, like, he's waiver exempt, which Yan Kuznetsov is
the only guy who is, other than Zane, I guess.
Yeah, but you're obviously not sending him down there, probably.
Yeah.
But with Hunter, you can play him on the first power play unit. You can play him on the first pair at 5-on-5. Maybe you can give him a little bit of PK time on a second unit just so he can learn that side of the game. Would that be better for his development than being the number 6 defenseman in the Flames, and might not even be getting power play time because you have Nemec and Parek ahead of him? Like, I think that's the interesting part of the conversation. And then the other thing too is, if you move Zane to the left to get Hunter Brzustewicz in on the right, well, who's coming out on the left side? You just mentioned Jake Middleton. He's not coming out.
Yeah.
Ryan Huska's not taking him out of the lineup. He is a Huska kind of guy. And so then it would be Yan Kuznetsov.
Yeah.
Do you want to take Yan Kuznetsov out of the lineup? And I don't know if you do after the season he had last year.
In my opinion, I would rather see Kuznetsov out than Brzustewicz. I think Brzustewicz has just more NHL modern tools. I think Kuznetsov is a very, a talented young player. And I think there's a lot of upside to him. I think at the end of the day, one of them's got to go. I don't know how it's going to happen.
Well, what about Whitecloud?
What about him?
Well, by all accounts, he has a ton of value on the trade market. He makes $2.75 million for the next 2 years.
Bobby, I don't think
with a rising cap. There's a lot of value there.
I agree.
But I'm with you. I don't think the Flames are going to do it. I think they love having him in that locker room.
I like having him in that locker room.
I do too. Yeah. I really like him.
Yeah.
But if you're desperate to get Hunter Brzustewicz into the lineup, I mean, that's, I think, the easiest way to do it.
I agree. I just think it's going to be really tough. And I think it's going to be tough for him in the AA too. They went shopping. Like, big time on the AHLD side, in part because they know they were unwatchable last year. They were so bad, the Wranglers last year, to the point where they were dressing guys who, I mean, they had to play because they had contracts. But it was like, there's a reason why, end of the day, when you had how many guys to qualify, 10 guys on QOs, and you qualify 3 of them, there's a big reason for that. And it was just a horrendous.
They were unwatchable at the end of the year. I went to a couple games and there were about 800 people there.
Yeah, it was awful.
It was really hard to watch. So they had to revamp that whole roster.
I love the Wranglers, love the people who work there, but so that was a big need.
So that would be a big boost though, to have a guy like Brzustewicz go down there for maybe a couple months, kind of thing.
Yeah, sure. I mean, again, it's going to be difficult because you've got a lot of competition down there too. You're going to be going up against Michael Benning, who is a big time AHLD.
But you would prioritize a guy like Brzustewicz.
Sure.
I would assume.
As the GM, you might. Yeah. As the coach, I don't know. I mean, I probably, yeah. But I mean, at the same time, I mean, not always. I mean, I don't want to compare Hunter Brzustewicz to Jeremy Poirier, because I think they are.
He's a better player.
I think they are completely incomparable. But at a certain point last year, it came to the point where, we're not putting JP on the power play because he's a prospect. JP is not on the power play because he shouldn't be on the power play, and of course he got traded away. They were playing Daniil Miramanov over him.
Right.
And I don't think Hunter B is nearly at that spot at all. Like, I think I want him to be in the NHL. I don't like, but at the same time, I mean, you are putting him against Michael Benning, Andreas Englund, who has been around the block and then some. Like, he was part of the Dion Phaneuf trade with Ottawa all that time back. Jake Livingstone, who was like a highly touted free agent out of the NCAA a few years ago, out of Mankato. Abram Weeb, who just came in. That's a lot of guys.
Oh, it is. Oh, for sure it is.
and not counting guys who are going to be coming in, who are on, two-way deals with the ECHL, AHL only deals. Like there's going to be a lot of ice time. So I agree. You can put Hunter B down there. He'll probably be a go-to guy. I just don't know. I think it's a good problem to have. Same time, I think it's a difficult spot to put yourself into.
But like the American Hockey League, I think the Flames view the Wranglers as a developmental tool. I don't know if they're necessarily viewing the American Hockey League as a win at all costs kind of model.
No, they're not the Coachella Valley Firebirds.
No, and they're not the Toronto Marlies and that kind of thing. Yeah. But at the same time, like, you need to prioritize a guy like Brzustewicz. I mean, the guys that you just listed there outside of Weeb, they're not going to be Calgary Flames one day. I think they're going to be AHL or European players probably for the rest of their career. I think you have to prioritize that guy, and you have to communicate with Brett Sutter that, hey, this is what we're doing here.
Well, like, and Brett will do right by the team.
I think so too.
I think ultimately, I'm just worried that if you send Brzustewicz down, he gets passed. I think I'm really worried about
by who.
Well, that's the thing. You have guys who are going to be coming in very, very soon. And like setting him down this year, bringing him up midway through the season, there's a way where that works. But if you send him down and he's down there all year, then I'm really worried heading into the year after that about, his value as an asset.
The other thing to consider too is you might ruin the relationship a little bit.
I'm not even as worried about that as much.
I think him and his representation would probably be pissed if he was down there. And I think that's another thing that the Flames need to keep in mind a little bit.
Yeah, I think to a degree, sure. But my main contention would be, you have Hunter Brzustewicz right now, who is a highly touted young right shot D, who you acquired as a main piece in a trade from the Canucks for Elias Lindholm. And he is coming off a season where he split it basically equally between the NHL and the AHL. At this point, sitting here right now, you are basically at the spot where you got to make a call on Kuznetsov, Brzustewicz. One of them's either going to be sitting as a healthy scratch and going to be forcing you to waive somebody else, or you're going to send the other one down to the A entirely. And what happens if that top 6, top 7, top 8 gets cemented in place? You've made that call. And then all of a sudden, here you are a year later with Hunter Brzustewicz having played 60-odd AHL games, having not gotten another opportunity. Where does that leave you with the asset?
See, now I don't really see it the same way. I don't think this is the make or break it year, or the year that you have to choose, because like I said, like Hunter, he is 21 years old. Like, he's super young, and playing for 3 seasons of the American Hockey League, or 3.5 seasons of the American Hockey League, is not the worst thing for a defenseman, for his development. And the way I would view it is, like, I would be totally fine with him going down to the American Hockey League, and then come February, if he's undeniable down there, if he's dominating, and it's clear that this guy needs to play in the NHL, then I think you have the conversation about, maybe you look to move Jake Middleton and move Perek to the left, or you look to move Zach Whitecloud. If Brzustewicz is undeniable, it's so, I think they have time with this decision. I don't think they need to rush it.
It is so funny to be having this conversation about a bursting defensive pipeline, and then at forward we're like, okay, Suniev maybe some point during the year.
Hoffman on the fourth line.
Jonathan Castagna, maybe. It is really a different world.
Oh yeah.
Where at forward it's like, who's there?
Yeah.
Somebody come play number 4 center for this Calgary Flames team, because we got nothing.
The defense is fascinating.
Defense is great.
I think it's the most interesting part of the team heading into this year. Like, there's 4 or 5 guys who I'm like really excited to see how they play and what they look like.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've just used a very high draft pick on Carson Karls, with the expectation that down the line he is going to be, if not your number 1, your number 2. You have Perek, you have Nemec, both of whom you have used extensive capital on. Both as far as draft picks and also in your own resources, with Perek specifically. And you want them to be top pairing guys. You got Henry Muse, who profiles as well as anybody on the right side in the Flames system, aside from Perek, pretty much. I mean, his OHL production was outstanding. His early numbers at Michigan were outstanding. You're sort of sitting here saying, whoa, what's this guy? You have Maceo Phillips, who impresses you every time you watch him. And that's not it. Like, they've got lots of other defensemen as well. So it is a good time to be a fan of the Flames if you like the idea of them being able to shut down their opponents.
Right. Well, even throw Kevin Ball in the mix too.
Kevin Ball,
he's still a younger
Kevin
guy.
Ball,
too,
Yan
right?
Kuznetsov, lots of players.
Yeah.
So it's exciting. Pike, not Pike. We're gonna get Pike on in about 20 here. But Bobby, I want to talk to you about another guy who is in a similar position as Brzustewicz, was drafted the same year by a different team, by the Flames. Of course, Brzustewicz drafted by the Canucks. I want to talk about Sam Honzek because I think there is a path forward here. And I put this out on social media a couple of weeks ago. I think there's a path forward here for Sam Honzek to take on a bigger role than people expect him to with the Calgary Flames this year. I was putting out a spitball here because I know earlier in the show you talked about Matt Vigridden and Morgan Frost and Matt Coronato being on a line together. I was thinking, if you want to have that line have a little bit more possession, a little bit more oomph to it.
A little speed, a little physicality, a little
What
size.
if you do find a spot for Coronato with Farabee or where have you, and you put Honzek there?
That's interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
Does
just a total thought experiment. I like because I mean I feel like this is a guy who obviously has not jumped off the page offensively since he was drafted, but I just wonder if there's maybe something there to this player as more of a pro NHL molded player.
Well, like, what do you see him profiling as? Like, do you see him being a top 6 guy that can score 20 goals consistently and 50 points, or do you see him more as kind of a middle 6 defensive guy? I think that's kind of what it comes down to.
Complimentary, like he's a big guy.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you're a Marcus Foligno type guy at that size, you are useful on a line with skilled players. I don't want to make too many comparisons. I mean, I obviously you'd love it if he turns it into a Pavel Buchnevich, who's like, this big guy who's just unstoppable. I just see so many opportunities for a guy like Sam Honzek to use his speed and to use his size to his advantage and become on a line with more skilled players than he's ever played with, a truly impactful player. Again, there are so many bad comparables that you can make for Sam Honzek because we truly don't know what this player is at the NHL level.
Not yet. Yeah.
You don't want to be sitting here in my chair saying, oh, this guy's going to be Tom Wilson, where he profiles, and he comes into the NHL and all of a sudden, it takes a couple of years, but you're like, whoa. But I do think there's a path here where all of a sudden you're sitting here 5 years out and you're saying, this Honzek guy, I mean, his attributes on paper, he can do anything. And I think when you watched him at the start of last season with his package of attributes, if he's put on a line where he doesn't need to be the skill, I can see the sky being really high.
Yeah, absolutely. And, right before his injury, he was really starting to come on.
He's playing great.
He was playing fantastic.
His underlying numbers last year were as good as anybody's on the Calgary.
And he started to score some goals. He started to look a little bit more confident with the puck on his stick. And, before today's show, we were kind of throwing around some comparables. And the one guy I think Honzek should mold his game after is Blake Coleman.
Totally.
If you're Sam Honzek and you're the Flames,
be a bigger Blake Coleman.
I think you do everything in your power to become that type of player. The type of guy who can play, on a shutdown line with a guy like Michael Backlund, who could score 18 to 20 goals a year, play in the first penalty kill unit, hit, play with speed, be tenacious. That's the kind of guy I think Sam Honzek should be. Like, if I'm Honzek, I'm watching a ton of video with Coleman. I'm sitting down with Ryan Huska and Michael Backlund. I'm asking, hey, like, what are his tendencies? Like, what made him such a special player defensively? Like, what made him so effective? Because, like you mentioned, he has the skill set to do it. Great skater, really big. He started to play with a little bit more physicality last year, which I really liked. And he's got, some sneaky skill. Like, he's not the most skilled guy in the world.
Yeah.
But I do think he's the kind of guy that could score that 18 to 20 goal range for the next 6 to 8 years sort of thing. So that's the guy who I would look to mold him after. And at flamesnation.ca, I wrote an article looking at some different forward combinations. And the one I came up with was Honzek, Backlund, Farabee as a shutdown line.
Love it.
Like, it's a pure shutdown line. First over the boards in a defensive zone face-off situation, playing against the opponent's top opposition. That's the kind of the role I see Honzek being long-term with the Flames.
It's funny. Like, I think there is a gap in analysis, in public analysis, especially, and I'm part of this, but I think there's a huge gap in the way that players are perceived coming out of developmental into pro. And the way that I mean this is in developmental, because there is a lack of available data, players are gauged on their production. And in the NHL, when you get to the NHL, a lot of times when you're evaluating players and when you're getting into the online sphere, production goes out the window. Nobody cares about how many points you score to a certain degree in certain conversations if you have good underlying numbers.
Right.
And to me, Honzek strikes me as the kind of player who goes from being the prospect who people are maybe a little down on because the production isn't there. And what we don't see is that the underlying numbers have always been there. And the way that he plays the game, to me at least, seems conducive to him creating a profile for himself in the NHL where he is a very strong possession player. And ultimately, those kinds of players can be extremely difficult to find. I mean, in a lot of cases, the profile from last season reminds me a lot of Farabee, who is kind of that big guy who's not overly aggressive, but he does what he needs to do.
He's feisty.
And he's able to make things work. And Honzek's got better boots, in my opinion, than Farabee does. He's a fast player.
I would argue he's probably the fastest player on the Flames right now.
So, maybe. And so I just think, health permitting, which is obviously a big caveat.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Sam Honzek this year and sort of saying, okay, buddy, like let's maybe put yourself into these top 9, top 6 conversations, because truly I do think he has the ability to be that kind of player.
Oh, for sure. And I think the one thing he has going for him too is that I think last season he really earned the trust of Ryan Huska.
Huge.
Which is not easy to do as a young forward in this organization. We saw that with Coronato and Zary last year. So he's kind of got the coach's trust and the coach's ear a little bit, and I think that's really going to help him.
To me, it speaks volumes that the same coach who, of course, told Matt Vigridden, I want you to make this team next year, and of course, Matt Vigridden, it speaks volumes that same head coach apparently feels the same way about Sam Honzek. And, I think Huska is not without his issues as a head coach, but I think his assessment of those two young players, to me, speaks volumes.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think those two together just kind of feel like peanut butter and jelly to me, where Gridden can be the guy who makes the moves once he gets the puck, and Honzek's the guy who gets him the puck.
Yeah, that could totally happen. And it's super interesting.
So just a thought experiment, but I would love, obviously this year is going to be a very different year. 4 preseason games, 84 regular season games, which I'm all for. I'm all for that, but not as much time to tinker. A lot of deference, I would imagine, to players who are already established. I would imagine the age of the PTO is probably over to a certain degree. I mean, there's not going to be nearly as much appetite for split squads and what have you. So,
well, and the days of bubble players looking to make the team out of camp are probably gone now, because with 4 games, you're probably looking to get your NHL roster into at least 3 of those, I would imagine, to get them going. All of a sudden, the days of Rory Cairns playing 6 preseason games and lighting it up, trying to make the team, I think are kind of gone.
Even beyond that, I will never forget being at the Calgary Flames 2016 training camp. Back when they had training camp, I believe open to the public, which I don't think it is anymore.
Not anymore, no.
I was there as a fan. I was 15 years old. And here's some of the names, okay? I will never forget being there and watching this with the following players all on PTOs. Lori Korpikoski was on a PTO, actually signed a contract out of that
with Edmonton,
camp.
I think, was it?
No, not with Edmonton.
Or
I think
Arizona?
He went to, no, he was in Phoenix before.
Okay.
I believe he went to either Columbus or Dallas and then split the season with those 2 teams. Of course, Versteeg was a PTO that year in Edmonton, came to Calgary. The Flames had Luke Adam on a PTO. I remember him skating around out there. They brought Chris Higgins back on a PTO. Didn't make the team after he was with the Canucks, of course. On defense, did they have anybody interesting? They had Colby Roback, former Florida Panther.
How could you forget Colby Roback?
Yeah, and Lyndon Vey.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So
he played a few games with the Flames.
He did play a couple games with the Flames. So like all of these guys,
it's over.
It's over.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we're seeing, I mean, these guys are still going to be on AHL deals, but the idea of, okay, I've gone unsigned all summer. I'm going to sign a PTO with the Calgary Flames to make the Flames. That I don't know if that's really a thing anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
Alex Chason got out at the right time.
Right. Yes. I mean, with that 4th line center spot kind of up for grabs, maybe something like that would happen. But
who?
I think you'd rather see a Zary or a Pospisil or a Gross in that type of role instead of a PTO guy. That's for sure.
I'm going to stick my neck out and say I think there's 100% chance, 99.5% chance. I think there's 100% chance that Tyson Gross is the Calgary Flames opening night 4th line center. I think that is set in stone. Like I might be foolish for saying this. I remember Pike and I disagreeing over Sam Morton making the team out of camp last year, and he was right. I was wrong. But I do think Tyson Gross showed more in the last stretch of the year. And I think Huska throwing him out for faceoffs late in the game. I mean, love or hate the idea of faceoffs being a differentiator at the NHL level.
Well, it is.
For coaches, they are.
Totally. And he could play on the penalty kill, and Huska can trust him in some situations.
I am of the opinion personally that faceoffs are just another puck battle.
Yeah, they are.
But it is what it is. And Gross is good at them.
Really good.
Yeah. So I think he's your guy. I don't know how long he stays there. It might be a Justin Kirkland thing, but
now if they don't move out any bodies between now and the start of training camp, I feel like he's going to be in tough, because who are you going to take out of the lineup then? Then it's going to be a guy like Connor Zary is going to be a healthy scratch. Martin Pospisil, Siplikov, like those types of guys are all going to be healthy scratches.
I will say that I can take or leave Marty Pospisil in the lineup.
Oh, I totally agree with you. I'm just wondering from a Craig Conroy and a Ryan Huska perspective, would they be willing to make these guys a healthy scratch on a consistent basis to put Gross in?
If you've made Coronato, Sharangovich, and Zary healthy scratches a point, you can make Marty Pospisil a healthy scratch. Like I and there is going to be a heavy rotation. Like you're probably going to have 13 forwards, 14 forwards. I don't know if you have 14 or 13. You probably start with 14 is my guess. I think you probably go 14 and 7.
Yeah.
Depending. I mean, I think there's just more. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe 13 and 8. I don't know.
I don't have Pospisil in my opening night lineup right now.
I don't think I do either.
Yeah.
It's a shame. I like him.
Me too.
And I think there's an opportunity. Guys will get injured. Marty himself might get injured, but it's difficult when you've missed that much time. And
yeah, he was not the same player coming back from that injury last year. Like he wasn't even close to being the guy he was in his first 2 years with the Flames. The whole reckless skill set that he had and the physicality was gone.
Yeah,
he kind of looked like a shell of himself. And I think it's going to take him some time to get back to that level, if he ever even can get back to that level.
Really nice guy, and I'm hoping that Marty Pospisil can find it. I think at a certain point, Marty Pospisil again will be the sort of thing where it's like, oh, the Buffalo Sabres want more toughness on their fourth line. They don't have that guy right now. Here you go. And that might be a year or two away, because as it stands right now, Marty Pospisil's got 3 years.
He's just starting that new contract this year.
And so, the Calgary Flames have a few guys who I think are a couple years away from being trade bait. And I think Marty Pospisil's one of those guys. And for the time being, they got to figure out how to make it work.
Yeah. He could also go to a rebuilding team too that wants to add a little bit of toughness.
That's what the Calgary Flames are.
Totally. Yeah.
Like that's the thing is,
I think almost any team could use a guy like that when he's playing at his height.
The problem that I see, I look up and down this Flames Puckpedia page and I see, okay, Huberdeau, you can put him on the PP and the PK. Sharangovich has played on the PP and the PK lots. Coronato, you can put on the power play. Strome, wherever, I don't care. Farabee can go anywhere. Frost can go on the power play. Zary can probably go on the power play. Backlund can go on both. You're not putting Marty Pospisil on either of those.
No.
Because Marty Pospisil doesn't. That's the one thing that I remember years ago, like maybe 6 years ago, at a Flames skate of some kind, talking to a guy, a well-known guy who said that Marty Pospisil, the one thing that's going to hold him back is his skating. And at the time, I didn't necessarily agree, but I think that's the one thing that over the last couple of years where we saw him come in, it wasn't an issue. And at this point, I think it's the number one issue.
Last year specifically, yeah. I actually thought in his first 2 years, he was actually one of the better skaters on the team. And if you go look at NHL Edge data, I believe that he was either at the top or near the top of the Flames in terms of
speed bursts and what have you.
Yeah. So yeah, I wasn't too worried about that then, but after watching him last season, he took a step back.
Is it a conditioning thing or
I honestly don't. Maybe just
coming off of
the fact he hasn't played for a long time, and maybe that had something to do with it. But I mean, him and Connor Zary, they come into the NHL at the exact same time. They have 2 really good years to start their careers. Both of them took a major step back, and I think the number one reason why was, for Zary specifically skating, Pospisil skating a little bit too. But I also just think Pospisil, in order to be effective, he has to be playing like a maniac.
Yeah.
He's got to have that kind of screw loose, and he's got to play physical, and he's got to forecheck. And I just didn't see a lot of that from him last year. And I think it's because he's just, a little trepidatious when it comes to that head injury. And I don't blame him.
Yeah, well, sure. You know what it reminded me a little bit of was Tyler Toffoli. And I'm going to, it doesn't make much sense. But when the Flames got Tyler Toffoli and he came over from Montreal, and I don't remember if it was him who said it or if it was Daryl who said it, but the conditioning required to play on that Flames team, which was, under Daryl, they were so fast.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And Toffoli was playing on a Canadiens team that was horrible. Like Dominic Ducharme got fired that year. I think they'd won 8 of 50 games. They were terrible.
Yeah.
And Toffoli was just he was sucking wind. And he's not a good skater to begin with, but he was there were legit concerns. People forget this about Tyler Toffoli after his first half season with the Flames of like, can this guy keep up?
He was not productive.
Does this guy? Well, he was okay.
Was he?
He was okay.
Okay.
He was okay. He had 23 points in 37 games. He was okay. In the playoffs, he scored a couple of goals, but he was like fine.
Yeah.
And
the following season, he was great.
It was great. But there were like legit concerns about like, okay, the Flames have 2 more years with this guy. It's like, and I think it was Daryl who was like, this guy just needs to get up to his conditioning again, being on a legit team again. And
we heard the same thing from Taylor Hall too with the Carolina Hurricanes, and the Hurricanes
100%.
and Flames played a very similar system.
Yeah, super run and gun, super possession. The Flames were a killer possession team.
Yeah, man-on-man defense. You're doing a ton of skating.
Now, the good thing for Marty is that this current Flames team is a lot slower.
Yeah,
a lot slower.
Slowest team in the league. It's painful sometimes.
But that was what it reminded me of. Was watching sort of relative to the teammates. Marty was just a couple steps back, and so my hope is that there are a number of guys who I've heard of or have seen, videos of. They're training hard this summer. Like I hope Marty's one of them. I heard obviously Matt Vigridin was at that whole session with Artemi Panarin. I heard Yegor Sharangovich has gotten a new trainer this summer.
Good.
Like there are guys. I don't want to say it, but anyway, there are lots of things that are hopefully changing, and my hope is that Marty Pospisil is able to come into this coming season just sort of get off to a good start, because that's again, it's the sort of thing where when he is at his best, he is not only a valuable player to the Flames, he is a valuable piece. And ultimately that should be one of the big goals of this season, is making the Flames, oh God, I don't want to say that, make the Flames valuable again. Oh, that's horrible.
I get what you're saying though. Whether it's Zary, Sharangovich, Siplikov,
it's all about
all those
rehabilitating these pieces and putting guys into positions. See, that's why I say earlier, like you sign Sharangovich to a 5-year deal and you take him off PP1. That to me is like, where's the thought process there? Do you want to have a bad contract on your hands? It's like I remember when they traded for Joel Farabee, and the first couple of weeks it was like, okay, you're going to play him with Kadri and Huberdeau. He doesn't gel right away, and then all of a sudden he's like on the 4th line. Right. And it's like, okay, well, you got to find a spot for this guy and play him regularly.
I see Zary kind of in a similar light too. I mean, you sign him to a 3-year deal. He shows that he has this dynamic skill set, and then he's all over the lineup. He's a healthy scratch. Huska has no confidence in him. There's too many bodies to put everybody in a perfect position for them to succeed. But that's where Craig Conroy's got to come in this summer, and he's got to move out 1 or 2 of these guys.
I think it'll be easier for the forward this year. I think it'll be like, I look at it and I see, okay, you can throw Sammy Honzek on the 4th line to start, and then everybody else is where they maybe should be. You can put guys on the power play who deserve to be there. You can put guys on line 2, line 3 who need to be there. Defense, I agree. It's going to be difficult, and there's a lot to get into. There's a lot that we want to keep talking about. There's a lot more to dive into. We're about at the 55-minute mark of this show. Bobby, I think we're going to take a little break. We'll loop in our buddy, Flames Nation managing editor Ryan Pike, not Ryder Pike. And when we get back to you right after this, a little bit more Flames talk here on Barn Burner.
Village Honda is proud to be your dealership for life since 1987 in Calgary. Located in the Northwest Auto Mall under that giant Canadian flag, or online at villagehonda.com. Here's what's coming up this summer at Village Honda. The 22nd of August, noon till 4, is the 6th annual Honda and Acura Show and Shine. Tons of great vehicles. Calgary, come on up. Check out the automotive community, some great rides, and we're raising funds for Kids Sport Calgary. It's just $10 to get your vehicle into the show and shine, and free for anyone else to come up and just check out the cool rides. Lots of awards to be given away and raising funds so kids can get into sports who might otherwise not have the means to do so through Kids Sport Calgary. That's August 22nd at Village Honda in the Northwest Auto Mall, noon till 4, the 6th annual Honda and Acura Show and Shine. We'll see you there.
Crowfoot Dodge up in the Northwest, 20 Crowfoot Rise online at crowfootdodgechrysler.com. New ownership, same great Northwest location. It's Crowfoot Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, part of the Capital Automotive Group, don't you know? The focus, simple, just make it easy. Don't give me the runaround. None of the, can we enjoy this? That'd be great. Well, you can at Crowfoot Dodge. Big selection of trucks, SUVs, everything in between. The team up there going to treat you like a neighbor, not a number. Maybe you're upgrading your ride. Maybe you're looking to get something. You're going to splurge yourself, get something big and beautiful. They're building something fresh and new, and it's worth checking out. No drama, no runaround, just solid vehicles and solid people. It's what you deserve. It's what you deserve. It's what you need. 20 Crowfoot Rise in the Northwest. Crowfoot Dodge. CrowfootDodgeChrysler.com.
Adrenaline Source for Sports has been locally owned and operated since 2007. It's Calgary's destination for hockey and baseball. 2 locations in Calgary, 9309 McLeod Trail South, and in the Northland Mall in the Northwest. We're talking one of the largest goalie selections in the city. Custom True Dealer, they're the biggest in all of Calgary, not to mention a massive selection of equipment for hockey and baseball. Super knowledgeable staff, and you can try the equipment before buying the equipment. Shooting lane, batting zone. You can use hit tracks to test bats head to head. See exactly which one gives you that perfect home run at the Northland location. Minor hockey team apparel selection also available at both stores. North teams at the Northland location and the South teams at the McLeod Trail location. A total of 15 community teams available in store. And their pro shop is also at Flames Community Arena. Whether it's hockey or baseball, in Calgary, it's Adrenaline Source for Sports.
Get a look at our boy. Look at Jack.
What the hell's he doing?
You know what he's doing? He is looking for a resume. He wants to get a job with GMC.
What?
It's the employee pricing for you. He thinks you need to be an employee to get the pricing.
Well, I'll go get him.
No, just let him go. Let him go.
GMC's Employee Pricing for You event is happening now. And the best part, it's for you. No employee badge required. Right now, you can get an up to $16,240 cash purchase credit on the 2026 Sierra 1500 Denali Ultimate. Enjoy quality features like available 16-way heated and ventilated front seats with massage function and an available 12-speaker Bose premium sound system. Head on over to your local GMC dealer today to take advantage of employee pricing for you before it ends.
Back to the show.
Back at you with the back half of this Barn Burner and Friends. We've got Mike Gould, that's me, Bobby to my left, and a furiously typing Ryan Pike, who's probably working on a story for Flames Nation where he is the managing editor. And he's come wearing the wrong team's attire. Pike, thanks for joining us.
I just like the colors.
It's quite the welcome, hey?
It's a beautiful color.
He's typing. He's wearing the wrong stuff. He's got Excel open. It's just like
It does bring out the color of your eyes, though.
I always
It's very nice.
Robert's such a nice young man. Such a nice
and
boy.
I'm just irritating you, just throwing questions at
Just
you.
flip the table and get out of here.
Before we went live, obviously we spent the first half of our show talking about Calgary Flames players, Hunter Brzustewicz, Sam Honzek, and a variety of others. But we got to bring the folks what they want. And so that's going to start the next segment, which I'm going to be calling Box Office Corner. Because Pike, you couldn't stop talking about your eager anticipation of the upcoming Spider-Man film.
That's right. Brand new day.
John C. Spider-Man.
Named after Dan Slott's classic reboot of Spider-Man after they wiped everyone's memory of his marriage.
Yeah. Wasn't the plot of that comic book that Spider-Man wanted one more day with his Aunt May? And so
that was the previous, and then he made a deal with the devil.
Made a deal with the devil,
and then
that's right.
To get out of the deal with the devil, he had to sacrifice his marriage to Mary Jane in the comics. And then everyone forgot except for him and her, but the rest of the rest of the world forgot. Like, it was very convoluted and very, very marvelous.
You sacrifice your marriage for Aunt May, who is canonically depicted in the comics as being like 95.
Okay, so what happened was they did the Civil War where Spider-Man unmasked to say, "Hi, I'm super cool, and you should register to be a superhero or whatever."
That's
because I was doing this since I was 15 and I had no training. Isn't that terrible? And then he changed his mind and went against the registration people. And then because he unmasked, his aunt got shot because of all his enemies could find him. The exact reason he didn't want to unmask for 60 years of comics in the first place, because it was highly illogical. And it didn't make sense in the context of anything. So his aunt got shot. So he made a deal with the devil to re-secret his identity. So they used magic to make everyone forget. But they also forgot he also had to sacrifice his marriage to the devil the
Feel like-
actual Marvel's devil.
feel like-
Marvel, Satan is an actual character in Marvel Comics. Mephisto,
Yeah,
played by
It wasn't he in the
Sacha Baron Cohen played him in.
Well,
Ironheart.
I was thinking of the Ghost Rider movie. Wasn't that Peter Fonda? Something like that.
I don't remember.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that's not canon
Yeah,
anymore.
that's
in
not
the,
canon
in the MCU.
anymore.
He's played by Borat. Sacha
Bobby,
Baron Cohen.
what do you think of Marvel movies?
I'm not a Marvel movie guy.
I used
I'm
to
sorry.
be. I was big into them, but these new ones are buns.
You just don't want go to see movies that require homework. Do you?
I would rather go see movies that require Homer, such as The Odyssey.
Ooh, that's a good transition.
Oh,
That could-
very
directed
nice.
by a man who made some very good comic movies. Christopher Nolan.
Terrific. I just feel like back to the one more day thing. I feel like if Aunt May heard about that plan, she'd be like, "What are you doing? Like,
It's the
you're
kind-
giving up your marriage
Okay, it's
for
the,
me?"
It's the kind of storyline where if you sit down and explain it to someone,
It's like, what?
they go, Really?
Yeah.
That's the story you came up with.
Aunt May.
So,
It's like, okay.
but
Hey, The Odyssey. Have you seen it?
no.
Good. Have you seen it?
Not yet.
It's good. It's good. It's good. It's really good. Jack's seen it. You saw it, right, Jack? Big fan?
Yes, I did. I loved
Yeah,
it. It was
great.
very good.
It's great.
I mean, if
great.
it's half as good as Inception, then
Well, we are blessed here in Calgary. We have one of 41 theaters in the world that support 70 millimeter IMAX, and it is just unbelievable. Go see
I
it.
used to work at IMAX.
Yep. No.
If you're trying to splice IMAX, it's gigantic.
Remember-
you get an upper body workout just trying to lift the damn thing.
You know what theater I miss is the Eau Claire one. Remember the big, the fake IMAX that they had there? With
Yeah,
the big
it
red
was
plush
an
seats?
IMAX screen,
It was a
kind
fake
of, but the
IMAX.
projectors weren't really IMAX.
No. Yeah, that was cool. I miss
Yeah,
Eau Claire Market.
yeah, it was
Wow.
the. I don't know if it was the worst theater in the city, but it was up there.
Oh,
just-
it's great. I miss it. There used to be a blood donation
You
clinic there.
just like to be in any movie theater where you don't get swarmed by
Yeah.
your adoring public.
So
It's also a
last
time capsule too.
we're gonna wrap
I
up
love.
box office corner here by saying that I used to go to movies at Eau Claire Market. I would go get my blood donation, and then I would like go sit in a movie theater and feel like woozy. But it was great. It made movies way more enjoyable. And that's the box office corner. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you humoring us for those. How long was that? 10 minutes? Oh my God, this show's going to the dumps. All right, Pike. Well, thank you for joining us. And you were in the studio to overhear much of Bobby and our conversation about the state of the Calgary Flames. And you're still working on your spreadsheet, just furiously tapping away.
I got to work on Wrangler's line combinations.
Wrangler's line combinations. I would expect nothing less. But I guess we'll just sort of start in the same spot. And Bobby, chime in whenever you want. But how do you feel as far as just level of excitement? It's the last year at the Dome. The Flames are coming off of a season which was, by all accounts, terrible, but they sort of got what they needed to get out of it. And here we are now going into 26-27.
I'm going to push back on the terrible because it was the taking your medicine season. It was the
What was what they needed?
they did the things like anyone who says, "Oh, the Flames picked a direction this year," no, they picked a direction when they started trading guys that they otherwise would have held on to. If you are trading during that, like Tyler Toffoli, I think, okay, he probably wasn't going to be a long-term piece either way. Probably priced himself out from being on the team based on, I think his camp felt he was a core guy, and the Flames felt he was like, look at when they added him, and they added him as sort of you're the last piece of the puzzle, but he's not the puzzle. He's not the piece you build the puzzle around.
Great deadline.
He's the corner piece. He's not the middle piece. So he's a guy you can swap out. And you can still say we're staying in the same direction. Trading Tyler Toffoli doesn't really change that. Nikita Zadorov, same kind of thing. I think Nikita Zadorov was the Tyler Toffoli of their defensive group. He was good, but he was, when everyone's healthy at the peak of their powers, he's the third pairing guy. But when you start trading, Elias Lindholm and Noah Hannafin, the direction's been set. Like you're basically going, okay, these are guys that if you were going for it, if you're trying to keep the band together, trying to keep things afloat, you hold on to those two guys. So realistically, they've chose this direction since to be, if you're being very conservative, January of 2024.
But they didn't go scorched earth though, which is what they've done now. And one other thing too is like they kept bringing in NHL players in some of those trades, whether it's Andrei Kuzmenko or Kevin Ball or Yegor Sharangovich. It always felt like they were trying to get younger and they were trying to push at the exact same time. Whereas I think now it's obvious
It's
that
an acceleration.
it's a
It's an
full-on
acceleration.
rebuild now. I don't think it was that in 2024.
They weren't tearing things down to the studs, but they were knocking out walls one at a time. And so I don't think they really. I think if you're trying to basically not obliterate your young kids, not turn them into the decade of darkness Oilers where you're bringing in an 18-year-old kid and being like, this is, here's so-and-so, he's here to save the Oilers. I think they've seen what didn't work in other markets and are trying to be very intentional about what they're doing. So, again, I'll use the Jacob Markstrom trade as a perfect example. You only trade Jacob Markstrom when you think there's a multifaceted benefit between you gain cap space and you get assets for him, and you also open a spot for Dustin Wolf, who had done everything you could do at the AHL level. And you trade, the same week you trade Andre Mangiapane, not because you don't think Andre Mangiapane is good, but you can get a pick for him, and you open up some cap space, and all of a sudden there's a regular top 9 spot for a Coronato or a Zari or whoever. So I think they've been very intentional about that, and I think they did accelerate things this year. I think they had guys like having Mackenzie Weegar insulates your young defenseman a bit, but he also takes up a lot of ice time. So if you're going in the direction of going, screw it, we're going, let's just commit to this. Trading Weegar is the right thing to do. And I'll say this, I think last year, I would categorize it as a success in the sense of they accelerated the direction they'd already chosen. And if you look at the aggregate, I mean, Matvei Gridin, from when he showed up and made the team at a camp, deservedly so, his game has a clear identity now. They did the same thing they did with Coronato. They brought in Coronato in 23-24. He earned a spot on the team. They brought him in. They tinkered around with him, went, okay, here's some things he needs to work on. Sent him down to the Wranglers, said, okay, here's some things you want to work on with the Wranglers. And his game, every time he got called up, was better. Every single time in a lot of specific ways. They did that with Gridin. I thought he was really good. Brzustewicz, as you guys mentioned earlier in the segment, I think his game gradually evolved over the year. Kuznetsov, I think he basically had a clear identity from when he came in because of all the time he spent with the Wranglers, and he had the benefit of, your penalty kill is run by Trent Cull, your blue line group run by Trent Cull, to a guy who knows him probably better than anyone at the pro level, and he fit with the Flames needed like a glove. I don't think it can be understated. I know Zane Parekh, people were kind of down in his season because the counting stats weren't good, but my goodness, like the level of, he went from being a tentative kid, a punk ass kid in October. Look, he looked out of place
for sure
at times. He looked out of place because the NHL is a hard place to learn. But from beginning of the season to the end of the end of the season, he had swagger. Like, he was like that goal he scored against LA, where he just made like good NHL players look silly. Yeah. And he showed the ability to do that. He didn't score all the time when he did it, but you could sort of see by April the shape of what he could become. And Sam Honzek, obviously, the weird injury aside, I thought, again, second year in a row, he's made the team at a camp. He made the team because they had injuries in the last week of preseason, but he took advantage of the opportunity. And I think he's going to be a guy who has to basically he has to play his way off the team in October. And so, the fact that, we're in the process of doing our prospect rankings, they had I think 4 or 5 guys that played enough NHL games last year to graduate from what we consider being a prospect. They're young pros now, but they're no longer college eligible because they played enough games in the NHL as 19, 20, 21-year-olds to no longer be considered prospects. And they all their games took steps. I don't think, again, in the context of, did they have a parade? No. Did they do things that could potentially be building blocks to having a parade? Maybe. And there's a lot of seasons, like, I've watched a lot of hockey, unfortunately, a lot of losses over my tenure. I covered the Flames during the post-Iginla malaise, let's call it. I don't even know if it was a rebuild, because if, it was basically the clock ran out in Iginla and the hand was forced.
It was a 1-year rebuild, really. I mean, because the 14-15 team ended up making the playoffs,
and then I think they bailed out of the rebuild too early.
Oh, they absolutely did.
I've said this before, and I'll say this again. I really like the Hamilton trade as a trade. The timing of it was too soon.
Yeah,
but
and using their own draft picks, like, they didn't have many picks at the time. They didn't have many prospects at the time. Like,
and then you get to depth spending with picks. Like, this is the. We can talk, you don't have to get inside baseball, but in 15 years of covering the team and 15 years of doing annual prospect rankings, this was the toughest year by far. Like, there's 20 guys who made the official list. There's probably like 30 guys that had a case to be in the top 20, and just so they're all going to get full profiles because they all deserve it. But this is easily like the deepest they've been, because they had the stomach to basically go, okay, we're taking our medicine, we're going to commit to this. Like, realistically, in the history of the Calgary Flames, from the first year in Atlanta, they had whatever guys they could get from the expansion draft. From 72 to 92, they were constantly building. They never intentionally pulled the ripcord. In the 90s, they had to tear the team apart because of economic realities. They could not afford to keep the band together. It was not a choice. It was, them going, okay, if we pay the market value, we're going to go out of business. Then, the Young Guns was a product of economic realities, was not a choice. Then, when the Flames finally, started pulling the ripcord in the Iginla era in, 13, him and Kiprusoff, he aged out, went UFA, and Kiprusoff retired. That's not a choice. That's not intentional. This might be the first time in the entire history of the Flames franchise they went, okay, hold on. What are we doing here?
Now, to be fair, though, I mean, they tried to sign Elias Lindholm. They threw a lot of money and term at him. They tried to sign Noah Hannafin. I don't necessarily know if they fully went into this, from 2014 into this rebuild, 100%. It still felt like they were still trying to keep some guys around, and they were still trying to remain competitive a little bit. It felt like Lindholm and Hannafin in particular made the decisions easy for them.
I think Hannafin more so. I think with Lindholm, I think the refrain that we heard from Craig quite early after that deal was done was, we knew pretty early on that that we weren't going to make it
but
work.
They still threw a lot of money at him. Like an 8 times 8. That was kind of the rumored number.
I heard a lower number.
Yeah.
It was neither of those. It wasn't 8 and it wasn't by 8. It was a lower number.
Okay.
But early in the year, but before you sort of got a sense of what is he as a guy you build a line around. Yeah. There was an appetite to throw some money at him, because he was a big part of the team. And I think, we'll say, I think for a lot of guys, once you get a better sense of what guys are, I think the thing I like about the management group under Conroy is I think they've been really clear-eyed about who they are and what they are and what their players are. And sort of, what's the old saying? When someone tells you who you are or who they are, listen to them. Mm-hmm. I think the Flames have sort of been very good at Jacob Markstrom. They could have held on to Jacob Markstrom another year, but I think they got that
relationship was done.
I think they even before all the stuff that happened with the trade that didn't happen and the trade that did. I think you get a sense of, okay, Markstrom every other year being amazing and Markstrom every other year being not amazing. That's kind of what he is. Mm-hmm. And it's not to be disrespectful to the player. He's an excellent player. He was a Vezina candidate, and rightfully so, every second year.
Yeah.
But he's also a guy that is not a Vezina candidate every second year. And I think that is kind of what he is. And we're still figuring out what Dustin Wolf is. Elias Lindholm being on, when you put him with two, I would think you thought to yourself, is he a high-end complimentary piece, or is he a guy who drives a line? And they found out he's a high-end complimentary piece. And once you figure out he's not a guy you can build a line around, the amount of money you're willing to give him changes. And so you go from going, throwing, good money after bad to going, okay, what are we doing here? And I think they've been really good at having those, okay, what are we doing here conversations. And I'll say this, I think Craig's told this story multiple times publicly, so I don't think I'm telling tales out of school. The late Chris Snow used to tease Conroy about Craig, because Craig's a former player, Craig, you fall in love with guys. And I think the best compliment I can pay Craig as an executive so far through 3 years and change of being a GM is, if you look at the moves that he's made, almost every time the easy move is to keep a guy. And almost every time, who they kept? Backlund? And basically, every other time they basically gone, it might be time to move on.
Basically, they've kept RFAs.
Yeah. And not even all of them. Again, even just look at the Wranglers. I mean, you could have been okay, let's give some guys, let's
give him another shot.
Let's get Artem Brzustewicz, I think he's a good AHL player. I don't know what he is at higher levels, but he's a guy that you could make a case that Brzustewicz kind of got lost in the shuffle because it was hard. You can make a case for Poirier. You can make a lot of guys. You could have held on to Jeremy Poirier and then re-upped him and then held on to him because he's a guy you drafted, a guy you developed, and maybe he can get it back and maybe he can be the guy he was. Or you can make the tough call and go, okay, he might not be what we wanted to be here. Let's send him to Texas. And he had a really good end of last season with the Texas Stars. And you gave him a chance to do that. And I think in a lot of cases, they're being really clear-eyed about guys up and down the organization, from the third pairing of the AHL right to the tippity top. And I think they've had the stomach to make a lot of those tough decisions, where in other cases, maybe they would have been more sentimental. Maybe they would have been more conservative. Maybe they would have been more let's just hold on to their guys because they're our guys. But I think they've been very clear-eyed about the value their guys have in the marketplace and when to jump on possible opportunities to maximize their value, but also find them good landing spots. Because again, Jamie Poirier, he was struggling at times with the Wranglers. They did their best to find him a good landing spot, I think. And I think, it'll be better for his career, the fact that he had a chance to go to Texas and showed he could be outside of the Wranglers than holding on to him just because he's one of their guys.
Well, and my feeling with the way that their methodology has changed, I guess, to a certain degree, is that feels kind of like to me over the last couple of years, when they have acquired players, it has been more so as a means to an end rather than them attempting to solve a problem with their existing roster, to fix something that was broken, to push them forward. You acquire Zach Whitecloud to make the Rasmus Anderson deal work. You acquire Jake Middleton to make that Minnesota deal work. To me, even, and we don't know this, but I feel like when Craig Conroy is presented with that Morgan Frost, Joel Farabee deal, he sits there and says, okay, I'm giving up a second. I'm giving up Jacob Pelche. I'm giving up Andrei Kuzmenko for two players who, in the end, I will be able to extract more value for. To me, that feels more likely than him saying, oh yeah, these guys are going to push us into a playoff spot. I mean, at the time they were competing, but by the same token, I don't think he makes that deal as a playoff push for that season. I don't think that is what he has in mind.
Jacob Pelche had been through waivers. He was in and out of the lineup. And Andrei Kuzmenko was going to be sold at the deadline anyway. They got ahead of their business. You can make an argument of, if they had held on, could they have gotten something else for him? But no, I think they'd gone through the audition process with Kuzmenko and figured, okay, let's give him a chance to get out of this environment, go someplace else, see what he can be. Again, you gave Jacob Pelche, I don't think he was going to get a toehold in a full-time spot here. And so you give him a chance to go somewhere else he has a new car smell. He gets a chance to sort of be the shiny new toy somewhere and they can see where he can be. And at that point, they already had an excess in picks. You're giving up a second to add the term that the hockey people use is age group assets, guys in their early to mid 20s that they didn't have a lot of in that system. And guys that, if you're going to move out, if the long-term plan was, I think it was, and still is, you're going to move out guys in their 30s outside of maybe Backlund. You're going to move out the older tier guys and cycle in some younger guys. You kind of need some of those mid-age guys, the 25-ish guys to fill out the team, to play with them, and maybe, maybe Morgan Frost, turns into a core piece. You don't know. I think Farabee, let's be completely blunt here. Joel Farabee might have, I think at the time, because of how things hadn't worked out for him in Philadelphia. Yeah. He felt like, you got to move, you're going to take on Farabee to make the math work.
He was the David Jones for Alex Tanguay.
Yeah, but I'll give Farabee all the credit in the world. It wasn't working for him in Philly. At times, I think he struggled in Philly. At times after the trade, I think he struggled to sort of figure out what his role was going to be here. But he came in last year. I don't think there was a player in the organization, or at least an established NHL player in the organization, that did more to solidify themselves as a potential guy,
100%,
a cast member of this team when the team is worth going out of your way to see than Farabee. Because I don't think you're as eager to make that Blake Coleman trade if Farabee isn't what he is last year.
Well, where are you guys at on just the future of Frost and Farabee? Because one thing I'm looking at 2, 3, 4 years down the road is that you need to surround your team with good veteran players. Could Frost and Farabee be those guys in the future? Do you think the Flames are going to look to re-sign them, or do you think you're going to look at using them as trade assets?
It's funny. When Pike was talking about that deal, I was thinking in my head, when they made that trade, if you had told me that Andrei Kuzmenko would still be in the NHL 2 years later, making $5 million a year, I mean, nice work if you can get it
on a 1-year deal.
On a 1-year deal with the Pittsburgh Penguins, good for him.
The things that Kuzmenko is good at, he's not as good at it consistently as he could be, and that's why he's only making $5 million.
Well, it's
only $5 million.
He's only signed for 1 year.
But I mean, the things he's good at, he's really good at.
He's a power play specialist. He's great on the power play.
Nice work if you can get it. Yeah. But I will say, when you were talking about the piece that the Flames gave up, second Pelche and Kuzmenko,
and a 7th.
Sure. And did they get it? They didn't get a pick back in that deal. It was just the two.
It was just 2 for 4.
I think both the players they got are individually worth more than that collection of assets today.
Well, if they're to trade him over the next 2 years, they will get more than that for sure.
My perspective on it is you keep one, you trade one. And my personal opinion, my preference at this point would be to trade Frost and keep Farabee. I think Farabee's the better player. He's the younger player. And I also think he is I don't want to say less of an asset as far as like league wide asset, but I just think if you're looking at the center market for this coming year, only 2 centers last year who are pending UFAs scored more goals than Morgan Frost last year, and they are Sidney Crosby and Pavel Zacha.
Interesting.
I mean, elephant in the room. Granted, the NCAA Frozen Four ends on April 10th. So if a couple teams are in that final, it might not all happen. But I'll give the Flames credit. Like I'll give Conroy credit for. He's not exactly throwing up a big smoke screen to his plans of, all right, so we're bringing the kids in. They're keeping contract spots open very openly for Carson Karls, Cole Rejny, Ethan Wittenbach, and Cullen Potter. And those are guys that, could potentially 3 out of 4 could burn the first year of their entry level deals coming in March or April, whenever the NCAA season's over for them. And so if you're the Flames, I mean, I think Cole Rejny is going to be a center of the NHL. I think they want to give Cullen Potter a chance to be a center of the NHL. I think maybe because he's not huge, so maybe, the stereotype is small centers at lower levels sort of meander to the wings. He hasn't played the wing in college. We'll see how he does at the World Juniors. I think that'd be a good test to sort of see what he's going to be. He's going to Michigan State. That's going to be a hell of a team. But I mean, the cavalry's coming, so to speak. Like you have guys who'll be pushing. My big question is, in an ideal world, if you're the Flames and you're trying to bridge, like Backlund is turning 37 years old. He's turning 30. He's 37. He's turning 38 in March. Potentially the week that he surpasses Jerome McGinley's all-time games played mark for the Flames. It could be in the same week. It could be a fun week for him. But you're not going to build your centers around your 38-year-old captain who will be 39 when his current contract expires. So what's the post-Backlund plan? The post-Backlund plan, I don't know, because
that's where Frost maybe comes into play.
Frost maybe, but like
Strome is a UFA.
Strome, I assume, is gone before the trade deadline.
Right. And I'm almost wondering with Frost, would it make sense to sign him to a deal?
No.
And just hear me out though.
How long a deal?
If it's 5 or 6 years or whatever, you can use him as a bit of a stopgap. Let guys like Reshny take their time to develop. But then, say 2 years into that deal, you can still trade him. It's like if you sign him to a 5 or 6 year deal, it doesn't mean that you have to hold on to him for all 5 or 6 years. He can just be a stopgap for a couple years.
It's hard to find. I don't know if you throw 5 or 6 years at a guy you would describe as a stopgap. B, I'll say this. I really like Morgan Frost. I think Morgan Frost can be a guy who fills a need for your team long term. I don't know. I think the problem is Farabee, you kind of know what his niche is right now. Like worst case scenario, if Farabee is, I'll say this not disparagingly because Blake Coleman is very good, a 2-cup winner. If you're going like, oh, worst case scenario, Joel Farabee's a poor man's Blake Coleman, you will take that every day of the week because a poor man's Blake Coleman is still very good and allows you, he kills penalties, he can do tough minutes. Great. You can build, if you throw Sam Honzek on a wing, on the opposite wing of Farabee and have a Backlund for now, and then who knows who else at center. Great. You can set and forget that line for 5 years. You don't need to think about it. You've fulfilled a need. What is the thing that Morgan Frost can do for your team over the next 3, 4, 5 years that no one else can do? What's going to be the thing that makes him indispensable? What's going to be the thing? Like Backlund had the thing where he's just a guy who is very good at just being a sponge and keeping offensive players from being good offensive players in playing against the Flames. That's a huge plus. I don't know if we've seen enough from Morgan Frost to know exactly what that would be. I hate bringing guys into the last year of their deals, especially if they're pending UFAs, without really having committed to them. But Morgan Frost does kind of feel like a guy that you're like, okay, last 20 games of the season when, Nazem Kadri is gone, and granted, let's be honest, teams probably weren't seeing the Flames coming up on their schedule going like, all right, this is gonna be a tough game. Let's kick these guys' asses. They were probably seeing them, intentionally or not, as sort of an easier night on the calendar. And I'll give the Flames credit. They did their level best to make it a tough night for those guys. And I think they surprised a lot of teams down the stretch. But I don't know if you can say, see the last 20 games of Morgan Frost when he was very good and go, that's the real Morgan Frost.
I think we kind of do know what his role is. So like you mentioned, like Farabee is kind of like a Blake Coleman type of guy. I think Frost is a defined middle six guy, either second or third line center on a kind of mediocre or bad team. He can play in the power play. He can play 3-on-3 overtime, the shootout. He's that highly skilled guy. I think that is a role that you can have on this team. And, like when a guy like Cole Reshny comes up or Colin Potter, if they're going to get looks at center, I don't mind the idea of having Frost play some tougher minutes, and playing maybe in that Ryan Strome role and just allowing a guy like Reshny to kind of ease his way into the league.
If you tell me you want to do 2 or 3 years for Frost, all over that. Because I don't think signing Coleman
but like even on a longer term deal, I don't think you're stuck with Frost. I think you still could move him. Maybe you don't get a ton of assets. I just don't think you could move him.
I would be hesitant to do anything that blocks guys. I mean, you saw it. I think they saw it for Kevin Ball, for example.
But I wouldn't say that's blocking guys. So like if somebody's ready to make the jump, then I really do think you could move that asset.
I think you can move him in the same way that you could move Sharangovich if you really wanted to.
Yeah.
Like I would be really, and
I
also,
think there's more value there just because the position, pedigree.
Maybe. I agree. I also think guys like Frost, that archetype, can lose their value real quick. Like the one that's been rattling around my head is Mikhail Grabovski. That's the exact type of center that I think of. A center on a bad Leafs team in the early 2010s. Was calling me during a show, Mikhail Grabovski, and signs a big extension with the Leafs, gets bought out a year later. And that was a bad move by the Leafs to buy him out because they didn't have a whole lot.
They're the ones who signed him.
But they're the ones who signed him. And as soon as he turned 30, it was over. And he was never a big guy, lost the boots, and all of a sudden it's like, what am I doing with this player? And I think of Sam Gagner. That is always the name that I have thought of with Morgan Frost. And that's the thing is you talk about a 2 or 3 year deal for Morgan Frost. That's not happening. Like it's
not. That's why I keep saying 4 or 5, 6 years.
Never happening.
Why would he? Yeah, it'd be great for the Flames. But why would he sign that?
Charlie Coyle is 34 and he just signed for 6 years.
Right.
Like it is not happening. And so if I am
6x6,
yeah, it's a horrible.
Good
contract.
for you, Charlie.
It's
Coyle.
a great contract for him.
Good for you.
Good. Again, nice work if you can get it. But like with Morgan Frost, like I look at the bad contracts on the Flames, and a lot of them end when the guy. I mean, I'm thinking of Sharangovich again. They end when he's 31, and I don't want to sign Morgan Frost till he's 34, till he's 35. Like that's sort of the idea that we're looking at here. And so
But would you be against walking him to January and then going? Okay,
I wouldn't be against it.
If you see enough of the first 40 games, you go, all right. When we reset the standings to 0 and teams were playing meaningful games against us in the first half of the year, and you were exactly as you were in the last 20. Here's 5x5.
By the way, the reason the Leafs bought out Mikhail Grabovski, if you'll recall, was to sign David Clarkson.
Oh, wonderful!
They freed up that cap space for good reason.
The one reason I bring all this up is because I do think they're going to need that stopgap guy, and whether it's Morgan Frost or whether they sign a free agent or make a trade for another guy, I do think they need to insulate that center group because Tyson Gross is probably going to max out as a 4th line center. You're going to want to insulate guys like Cole Reshny and Colin Potter or Stock Celius if they're going to give him a shot at center.
That's the thing, though.
Or Hextall. Like you want to have some veteran guys in there to take on those minutes, and you already have a guy in house right now. The other way to replace him is to make a trade and you get rid of assets, or you sign him in free agency, and free agents are getting paid like crazy right now.
You can always sign an Eric Holla though. Like it's like they're always like,
and again, let's just throw out a name. There's a center version of Anthony Mantha. You can go out in a year and be like, all right, Morgan Frost wasn't what we thought he was. Good luck out there. It's center, so you have to throw more money than you want to. But you can throw out a 1 or 2 year deal at someone in their early 30s to basically be a stopgap. But I just think the idea, like, especially as you're getting further and further from here's the Flames, it is a group of guys, to here the Flames, this is a intentionally cultivated team of 20 odd guys pulling their direction. You can only really airdrop guys in for a few more years and have it feel intentional.
Well, and I will throw out another case of you sign I give myself away. You sign Morgan Frost to this contract and it turns into Ryan Strome. Like that to me, like, again, these centers who do not have the size, they can be fine players. And Morgan Frost is a fine player, but as a player archetype, they are not generally valued. They're centers, so teams will take them. The Flames took Ryan Strome, and quite frankly, maybe that's your stopgap for 27-28.
But they didn't even just take Ryan Strome. They, as soon as the Kadri trade hit, they went out of their way to go, this is the, like, I'll say this, as much as say, okay, Jake Middleton partially was included in the trade to make the cap math work.
Yeah.
Zach Whitecloud partially was included in the Anderson trade to make the cap math work. Ryan Strome was partially traded for because they needed a human being who could play center for the Calgary Flames.
Who made money.
I think they've been very intentional with, like, okay, everybody talks, hockey's a very small world. People have been talking about how good a human being Zach Whitecloud is since he was in college.
Yeah.
Like, he's been one of those guys, when people who covered the Chicago Wolves were talking about, like, oh man, such a nice guy. Like, you know, the stories talk. And when everything you hear, especially when you have a young locker room and a bunch of guys where some nights it will be a tough watch, some nights will be long nights at the office for the Flames. When you have guys like Strome, who've been there and done that, and Whitecloud, who's, Whitecloud, basically had a claws away in the NHL, and I think he's become a damn fine NHLer. Jacob Middleton was a guy that was sort of bouncing around for a little bit up and down in the Sharks organization until he got brought into the Wild. I think they've been very intentional about the types of people they bring in and the types of assets. And they've been very fortunate that the assets they've brought in have been the right people. And so I think, again, is there a center version of Zach Whitecloud you can bring? Okay, they already have Strome, but you know what I mean? Like, is there someone that's sort of like, maybe, someone's a little bit overpaid for their slotting on a contender, or someone who's, we want to upgrade this position, but we've invested a little bit too much at center. Maybe a guy who's a 3C on a deeper team, but come to Calgary and play for a couple years. I think they're definitely, there's probably the things they want long term are they would love to get a U25 center who they can build a team around. I mean, I would also love to have a solid gold house, as impractical as that would be, just because of the property value. I also think they would like to get, sort of, for like a better term, a Middleton or Whitecloud-ish center to help carry the culture load once Backlund, I think, will play until the wheels fall off. And thankfully, knock on wood, he's healthy and he's probably in better shape than everyone here. Okay, that's a low bar. Speaking as someone whose shape has been described as no, but at a certain point, Father Time catches up with you. So I think that they'd love to find someone in that age group that can sort of help keep moving things forward, so that it's not falling on the kids. Because again, we'll constantly use our neighbors to the north as a punching bag, because before they started winning lotteries, they were throwing a lot of kids into the deep end of the pool with no insulation, no life preserver, no guidance, and going, hello, insert name here,
Linus Omark.
Are you here to save the Edmonton Oilers? And that's too much pressure put on a kid. And I think we could get into this momentarily, but circling back on the fact that this prospect base is probably the deepest we've seen in years. You're Carson Karls. You're potentially joining the Flames at the end of the year before your 19th birthday. Are you the great hope coming into a year where Gridden and Perek have probably played the full year at the NHL level?
Just reminded me of a Norm Macdonald joke. Jacques de Gatineau. Only real ones will get it.
But you know what I mean? Just I think that I always brought this up, like, when it didn't turn out as well as some had hoped. But remember the year they made 3 first-round picks? They got, Sean Monahan, 6th overall, top, highest draft pick they've had in years. He turned out to be everything they wanted to be. But because he hit so quickly and he had Gaudreau in-house already, it basically meant that Emile Poirier and Morgan Klimchuk did not have as much pressure as they would in an organization with no prospects. And so if you are the 5th highest profile prospect in the system, things are probably going to be okay for you. At least you have the breathing room to develop and do your thing. Flames fans, I think, would be ecstatic if Ethan Wittenbach turns into a good pro, but I don't think any Flames fans will, be, banging on their walls going, when is Ethan Wittenbach getting here to stay at the Flames? I don't think they're saying that about any of the Flames prospects. Yeah. And I think that's because they've managed to build a team right now that the direction is very clear. But I don't think no one's expecting anyone to come in with a cape next season, the next 2-3 seasons, to basically throw the team in their back and
like Chicago with Connor Bedard or San Jose.
I mean, you'd love to have a player.
Yeah, but they don't have that.
But I mean, yeah, it's sort of the trick of it's sort of the two sides of the sword, because you'd love to have a Backlund Celebrini, but man, if Backlund Celebrini probably had so much pressure on him. Like, I can't imagine what it'd be like to be him on a daily basis, or Connor Bedard, or
that's why
Crosby years ago.
When the Leafs drafted Austin Matthews, they had Nazem Kadri there, they had Tyler Bozak there. Like, that's the kind of situation you want to put a young player in. I think the Flames are building towards that right now. If they can get a top 3 pick in next year's draft, whether it's a top center or the year after that, like they're putting themselves in a position where they don't have to be the guy right away. Totally agree.
There's a lot of good centers in the 27 draft.
Oh yeah.
Give me Milan Sundstrom. It's from the Sedin's hometown. He's 6'2". He's a left shot center. He might even be 6'3" now. Oh, he's good. Hey, there'll be a lot of good centers in this year's draft. We'll have lots of shows leading up to this coming draft. One more little thing. The Flames traded Nazem Kadri, and they sort of set out that groundwork for, they laid the template for exactly what, if they do trade Frost, how to do it. You trade Kadri for a first, a second, you get Frost for a 7th. And then what are you going to do this year? You're going to trade more, or you get Strome rather for a 7th.
Mm-hmm.
That's the template. To me, I don't know.
Or the Eric Howell, like you said, you signed a 2-year deal for it with lots of.
I'd be very
wary.
I'd be very wary of that Morgan Frost deal,
Yep.
but it's entirely possible. We'll see. Hey, let's pivot to a defenseman because we talked a little bit about
which one.
Well, we've talked a little bit about Brzustewicz. We've talked a little bit about Parak and Karls. Haven't done a lot of talking about Simon Nemec, and all of a sudden, this is your highest paid defenseman.
3rd highest paid player in the hockey team.
Yeah, he's being paid more than Matt Coronato. He's being paid more than Morgan Frost. He's being paid more than any of the other defensemen on the roster.
The only players the Flames organization bringing home more is Jonathan Huberdeau and obscure 7th round draft pick Dustin Wolf.
Yeah, and I mean, if you go based on salary for this coming season, Nemec is making 7 3/4. It's a front-loaded deal. They're paying him the most this year. For a guy who I think is still a bit of a shrug for a lot of fans in Calgary, who is sort of, we haven't seen him yet. We don't really know. And yet 7.25 per year for the next 5 years.
Dr. J. Patel and Outdoor Dental, one of the OGs on this podcast from day one. He was there with us. We appreciate you supporting him. It's the Soleil laser. Huge investment made by Dr. J, and it's paying off because it's changed the way you get your dental work done. Do you hate going to the dentist and they got the hooks and all that stuff in there? This is what it's about. It's about being relaxed. It's about things doesn't take as long. Nice and easy. Sedation dentistry they do. They do the Invisalign. It's a full line. They do everything with dental. Also, with the Soleil laser, it is the snoring treatment. Disrupts you, disrupts your partner, people around you. You're not sleeping well. You're not getting the deep sleep that you need. You're not as productive because you're tired. You're not feeling good. You know how it works. Outdoor Dental, 2 15-minute treatments can last up to a year. You go in, you get one done, 15 minutes. You go back, get the second one done. Easy peasy. It's the tension in the soft palate, reduces your snoring. Most insurance plans provide coverage. You can learn more, book a consultation at outdoor.dental, and just in general, find out more about everything that Dr. J. Patel is doing. He's doing it for you. Outdoor.dental. Taco time. Yes, every Tuesday is Taco Tuesday with Taco Time. $2 beef or veggie tacos. I like to get the rice sometimes. I know. I want you. Yeah, unlimited, as many as you can eat. What do you need? 2, 4, 6? You can get the build your own taco box if you've got people waiting. Well, you could bring them here's a chicken, and here's a chicken, here's a beef, here's whatever it is. Or you could let them build their own. It's fun that way. Taco Time. Find the nearest location at tacotimecanada.com, but I'm betting you kind of know where there is one, right? Because you've been there. You can go back again. They're making a lot of the stuff in-house. Taco shells, taco chips, the salad bowls, the hot sauces, it's all being done right there in that location, which means it's fresh, people. It's fresh. Every Tuesday, Taco Tuesday. Every Thursday, buy one, get one 50% off on burritos because it's Burrito-ful Thursday. See what they did there? It's awesome. tacotimecanada.com. Taco Time.
Hey, buddies, a reminder that Barn Burner is brought to you by Bet365, where Canada just hit the biggest home run of the summer. Bet365 available in Alberta and here to stay. Download the app. Must be 19 years of age. Please play responsibly.
Crystal Waters Plumbing and Heating, your crystal clear choice for home comfort. Sean and the guys are the very best. And of course, that's what we're going to tell you. But what I love it is I'll have people that will be saying, you know what, we did call Crystal Waters because we hear about Crystal Waters on the show. And you're right, they're the best. They are the best. You go to crystalclearcalgary.com. You'll find all the stuff that they do there. If something goes sideways, you got an emergency, you go to crystalclearcalgary.com. You put it in there. They're going to be in touch with you in a matter of seconds. They're going to come. They're going to hot water tank explodes, Crystal Waters Plumbing and Heating. You got something on the fritz, your AC, your furnace, whatever, Crystal Waters Plumbing and Heating. It's Calgary. They're the very best. They do anything charity-wise that we have, they always step to the forefront. Last year for our Christmas campaign, donated a furnace and an air conditioner. These are the best people among us. Sean and the guys, get them done. If you need whatever, again, whatever goes on in your house. I can't say it any simpler. It's Crystal Waters Plumbing and Heating, your crystal clear choice for home comfort. crystalclearcalgary.com. Buddies, Stampeders continue their 3-game road trip this week in Hamilton. Now, ordinarily a game against the Ticats would mean a little reunion with our old friend from Katy, Texas, Bo Levi Mitchell, the old gunslinger. However, Bo Levi injured in week 5 against Winnipeg. That's not why I'm joking. If people know Bo Levi. Yeehaw. He got rolled up and injured his ankle. That injury required surgery, unfortunately. That took place just a couple weeks ago. Bo, I think, would like to think that I got time to get back. Not sure that the coaching staff feels the same way. Anyway, T's and P's to Bo Levi. Love to see you back in the field sooner than later. Stampeders need wins. Maybe here without Bo, a chance to take advantage. They got to continue to work some things out. The offense has been pretty solid. The defense has had to tighten things up. This is a 1 o'clock Mountain start. So 3 o'clock in Hamilton, but 1 o'clock on the Calgary clock, the body clock in the Hammer. We'll see who's better prepared for a matinee game in this one. The next home game for the Calgary Stampeders, Bat McMahon, it's a while yet. Thursday, August 13th. They host the BC Lions. Go to stampeders.com. Just sniff around there. Different ticket options. Maybe the Coors Light Corral. They got rush seating for students. They got group tickets and experiences. If you haven't gone to stampeders.com in a while, do check it out. It's the year of the horse, after all. Let's get a win here, Stamps, as they take on the Ticats this week.
And we're back with more Barn Burner.
Pike, I'll start with you. What do you think is going to be the outcome with Simon Nemec as far as deployment and as far as, do the Flames have a guy who they can enter into these conversations around the league of, oh yeah, we have Owen Power, we have Luke Hughes, we have Simon Nemec. Is this that kind of player?
We'll see. I mean, he's played in the Olympics. He was second overall, and rightfully so. He was very good in his draft year. And, some guys, it just doesn't click for them in certain organizations. Like, I think the Devils had the best intentions, but I think the Devils, if you look at their depth chart, I mean, Dougie Hamilton, Luke Hughes, the guy I'll speak highly of until the days out of the league, Jonas Siegenthaler, who's just criminally underrated. I think
really good.
He's the Ryan Nugent Hopkins of defensemen. I think guys that don't get the credit outside of their markets. And I hear you comment section. I'm not sorry. I will forever talk about Nugent Hopkins as a good player. But I just think the thing is, okay, I think if you're the Flames, you've committed to the guy and you got to go, okay, why didn't it work in New Jersey? And the answer partially is just, could they have given him consistent power play time? And the answer there is, I don't know. Here, it's like, okay, PP1, or I guess PP1A will be Zane Parekh. PP2 or PP1B will be Simon Nemec. And I think based on how good they were last year, I think Parex's group will start as the top unit. But I also think at times last year, they did an A and a B, and they basically rotated them through. And I think that's probably what they're going to probably try to do, because I think they have a lot of guys that could use the puck touches. And to be blunt, with a power play that was so bad as it was last year, you know what? You're going to try everything. And I'll say this, he's going to be given as many opportunities to see as they can. They have, between Kevin Ball and Jacob Middleton, I think they have some defensive defensemen that really complement him. I wouldn't be shocked if he plays with Jan Kuznetsov at times. I suspect we'll probably see, my guess is the two extra defensemen will be, probably Hanley and Pahal. We'll probably see them rotate in from time to time. But I think based on age and based on just progression, those are probably the odd guys, sitting out. But other than that, you got 3 regular, got left shot guys that sort of project as sort of stay at home meat and potatoes defensemen that complement puck moving guys. And then, you have some guys who can play on the right side who, I think White Cloud is probably the most stay at home of the 3, but you have especially 2 younger guys. So I think you'll see White Cloud and whoever be eating defensive zone deployments in tough minutes. And then I think you'll see, especially, Nemec and Perek with whoever they're playing with. Hell, potentially you might see them together. Who the hell knows?
Yeah.
I think you're going to do your best to give those guys the high ground. And I think they have the guys who can play both with them and apart from them, who understand that role. So I'm fascinated to see how this works out because, Nemec, we saw flashes of brilliance, just like we saw flashes of brilliance from Perek. And I love the idea of, you have so many of these young guys that, when I mentioned that there's no one, the guy, there's nobody like Dustin Wolf's going to be the starting goaltender of this team until he's no longer with the team in 2033, where the hell year it is. And honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if he played long beyond his current contract, but that's a 2030s problem. But in terms of skaters, I mean, I don't think there's anyone you go, okay, this is our guy. So I think there's going to be a lot of internal competition. I mentioned the possibility of them rolling out 2 competing power play units. Great. I think this is going to be one of those years where they're going to try to see as much growth from within. And I think, I don't want to say you want to pit your 2 high-end defensive or offensive defensemen against each other, but they're competitive guys. At development camp, we heard so many of these young guys talk about how excited they are to go head-to-head with each other at the summer showcase, go head-to-head with each other in the NCAA throughout the year and in the Frozen Four. And guys, we saw, the Flames drafted Chase Harrington, whose most viral clip is him chirping Carson Karls, his close friend from the bench, when he was hurt in the corner, laying on the ice, convalescing. These are competitive guys. And I think that the Flames would probably want to do what they can to stoke a competitive environment where the guys know that, like, okay, if I outperform you, if you and I go to head, and we go, okay, I bet you I can outscore you this week. I bet you I can get more scoring chances than you. These guys, I think, are going to potentially rise to the occasion because you're creating an environment where nothing's guaranteed. There are no veterans who are, because of someone's years of NHL experience, they're going to get extra power play time. I think we're going to see potentially completely different groups in the power play from night to night, and especially from October to March. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the kind of thing that excites me about this group because, I think Simon Nemec is in a lot of ways the canary in the coal mine, so to speak, because I think bringing him in says to the team, we want to improve, and bring him in a very similar role potentially to what Zane Perek could play at the NHL level says, okay, you guys can figure out who our top pairing is.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to Nemec, I think the most interesting thing about him is just I think the range of outcomes are huge with him. I think he can absolutely turn into a legit top pairing defenseman, 60, maybe 70 point guy, depending on power play time. I could also see him maybe if he doesn't develop the way that we hope, he could be potentially a third pair guy, kind of like he was with the New Jersey Devils. So I think that's interesting. But I think the key for his success is going to come down to deployment. And it's going to come down to Ryan Huska, because like everything we hear about Nemec and everything we saw from him in the Olympics is that when you give him a lot of ice time and when you give him a lot of responsibility, he usually comes up and he lives up to those expectations. And I just think it's going to be critical for a guy like Ryan Huska to give him those minutes, to trust him early on within the first couple months. And I know gaining trust with young players and Ryan Huska, it's not an easy thing to do. But if Huska can just basically from the start of the season, put him out there for 21, 22, 23 minutes a night, I think we're going to see Nemec really sort to blossom. And I love that point you made about him playing with a guy like Kevin Ball. They played together in New Jersey for, I think it was like only like 190 minutes. But
I'll say this about,
they played well together.
I'll say this about Huska and young guys. Matthew Grittinscher earned a lot of trust, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Jan Kuznetsov earned a lot of trust, didn't he? By the end of the year, I mean, once I think,
but like there's the Matt Coronato, there's the Connor Zary type of thing that you can counter at the beginning of the year. Even Zane at the beginning of the year, like he didn't trust Zane at all, and like you said, he was a little bit out of his depth. But there's a little bit of a history there.
But again, like I think if you look at how they dealt with Honzek, and I mean, granted, you didn't have a full year of sample size to deal with him, unfortunately. And knock on wood, we get a full year of Honzek because I think that'd be a fun thing to watch. But Honzek, I mean, being put on that toughness line with Backlund, early on, like I think we all vividly remember there's a few games where he sort of made mistakes in sort of deployment mistakes, puck management mistakes, just defensive mistakes. I remember there's one along the wall in like second, third week in October, like one of his fourth or fifth games in, where he just sort of whiffed on a defensive play and it was like an odd man rush the other way. And you can sort of see him go like, oh no.
Yeah.
But then a very similar play he played at wherever the hell they call Toronto's arena, Scotiabank Arena. I always forget how they renamed it. It'll always be the ACC to me. But he made the play that preceded his first NHL goal was a really nice play in the neutral zone that basically led to a turnover, led to an odd man rush for his team, because very similar play is what he played a couple weeks before. He made the right play this time. And so I think Huska probably wants to do what he can to give guys opportunities, but I also think, you want to have accountability. So I think for him, that's going to be a fascinating thing to watch how he juggles it, especially with a group that's going to get progressively younger, especially, in March and April. But you might have a 19-year-old kid and a couple 20 or 21-year-olds pushing for regular minutes. And are you going to be able to have the cachet in the bank, the currency in the bank with your group to handle them the same way? So, but yeah, I'm fascinated by Nemec. He's 71 is going to be a very fun number to watch. I love these weird numbers this year. It's going to be so much fun.
There has been so much said about Hossein Parekh has not been able to produce in the NHL at this point. There was a different show that had a very contentious debate among a couple of prospect experts about that very thing quite recently, where it was just like, okay, if Parekh is this elite offensive talent, why hasn't he scored at the NHL level? And I think that was a slightly disingenuous argument to make, but I think it's understandable why on the surface, you're asking that question. If Parekh can be this guy, why hasn't it happened? And
he's played like 30 games in the NHL.
Played 30 games in the NHL, and he shouldn't have been there on a full-time basis. Well, why didn't he score? Well, anyway, I am saying this to put this out there. People talk about Simon Nemec in somewhat the same way, where he is an unproven, untested guy who didn't have the ability to lock down that spot for himself in New Jersey. And as such, he was expendable. They didn't want to pay him what he wanted, and so they let him go. I'm going to throw out some names, and I want you to guess what these names all have in common. Zach Werenski, Jacob Chychrun, Cale Makar, Matthew Schaefer, Justin Falk, Evan Bouchard, Rasmus Dahlin, Brock Faber, Brent Burns, John Carlson, Josh Morrissey, here in this chair the other day, Darren Radish, Matthias Samuelsson, Denton Matejchuk, Vladislav Gavrikov, and Eric Carlson.
People who haven't been in my kitchen.
People who have not been in my kitchen. Bobby, any guesses?
All very good defensemen.
All very good defensemen. These are the only defensemen in the NHL who scored more goals at even strength than Simon Nemec last year. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you're saying, oh, even strength goals, who cares? Well, I mean, even if you expand it to power play and all goals, it doesn't really change the equation that much. Nemec was tied for, Tied for 17th in the NHL among defensemen in even strength goals last year with 10.
He 11 goals overall as a 21-year-old.
Yeah. Alongside such names as Rasmus Anderson, Noah Dobson, Bowen Byram, who just signed for $12 million a year, and our almost Flame favorite, Lane Hudson. Of course, all these guys had a lot more minutes per game. All of these guys had a lot more power play time. Simon Nemec ended up with 10 goals in 68 games, again, at a relatively young age. There are a lot of qualms that people have with his defensive play, but when we hear the same conversations about, well, if Parekh is so good offensively, why hasn't he scored yet? This is a guy who has scored and who has shown that he can play at the NHL level and score at the NHL level, which, again, is a very good harbinger for future success for a young defenseman who often have a lot of difficulty when it comes to adjusting to that NHL defensive rhythm. And I think Parekh will get there as well. I think so too. Again, I think Zane, everybody agrees that he should have been in the AHL this past season, which is why
I mean, all things being equal, if he the NCAA changed the rule like a month and a half after he signed,
he'd have scored 70 points at Michigan, and people would be saying, "Oh my God!" Like it's a totally different ball game, which is why I chafe at the people who say, why didn't he score in the NHL? Well, it's because you just said he shouldn't have been there.
He had 9. He had He had
scored
4 goals.
He scored some
4
very,
goals and 9 points.
very convincing goals.
As
The
a
final 2 months of the
teenager.
season were
That
fantastic
goal,
for him. He looked
nobody talks
awesome.
about that goal against Dallas.
That was
That was a great goal too.
The goal against Vancouver was
Yeah,
unbelievable.
scored some
That
great
shot
goals.
was incredible.
So I think there's lots of reasons to be excited there. But I also think with Nemec, I mean, you can say he's unproven. You can say he's young and untested, but actually there is a little bit of a basis here for that sort of money, especially in this new cap.
That's why I brought up the word deployment.
Yeah.
I think if Ryan Huska plays the crap out of him and treats him like a first pairing defenseman at 5-on-5 and gives him a bunch of power play time, puts him out in 3-on-3 overtime, which he proved that he's unbelievable at. I think he can break out and be a very, very good player for this team.
And I also,
part of me kind of wants to see them roll out a 3-on-3 unit that's all defensemen.
Yeah.
Whoops, all defensemen. You throw out like you throw
Perek, Nemec, and
Ball.
Yeah,
well,
something like
Ball
that.
can play back and play D, and the other two can just row. Like
Brzustewicz, maybe if he's in the lineup.
This is the kind of year where if I'm Ryan Huska, I go, you know what? We're going to try some stuff.
The whole point of this upcoming season is experimenting.
Oops, all
Figuring out
defensemen
what
might
works,
be
what doesn't.
Can you imagine being
Totally.
like if you're the Oilers, the Canucks, or whoever playing the Flames 3-on-3 and it's whoops all defensemen? Wouldn't that freak you out?
Not if I'm the Oilers. So I got to drive something with David. I'm not too scared about that.
Can Zane
but-
Perek take a face-off at 3-on-3?
Why not?
We're gonna find out.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, just the other thing is I think a lot of people's perception of this player is colored because of his draft stock. And I understand it. You want these guys to be impactful right away, but you look at the trajectories that these players are on, and Simon Nemec maybe looks like a guy who would have gone 8 or 9 as opposed to 2 in the way that he has progressed in his D+1, 2, 3, 4. Again, I think of the player who was sitting in this very chair, Josh Morrissey, who when he was Simon Nemec's age had played 1 season.
You think people are a little bit down on 2-time Olympian Simon Nemec?
I don't even know if it's that they're down. I just think there is a level of confusion that is only precipitated because he is a known quantity to a certain degree that most players of his age aren't, where not many 22-year-old defensemen have 155 NHL games.
Yeah.
And it very much feels like Noah Hannafin when Noah Hannafin arrived in Calgary, and there were a lot of qualms about his analytics and there were qualms about his production at the NHL level.
And
it was
another,
like
another guy whose team was sort of playing hardball on. I
Yeah.
don't know what you are. So
Well,
I
they had
wanna give you
Jacob
the money you want.
Slavin, and it was like, okay, we like this guy better.
Yeah.
And again, the point being that most 21-year-old defensemen don't have NHL analytics. They just truly don't. And the oddballs you're comparing them to, the ones who are really, really good, the Lane Hudsons, again, player who should have been a Flame, but those are the outliers. Those are the exceptions. And you are acquiring Simon Nemec with the hope that he turns into that caliber of player. But the very reason that he's available, if he was that kind of player already, Calgary wouldn't have him. I mean, I think of that quote with Steve Stais when he acquired Warren Fogle midway through this past season. And it was like, well, if Warren Fogle was on pace for 20 goals this season, I wouldn't have been able to get him for what I paid for him. And it's like, you have an idea of what this player is going to be, and you have to trust your evaluation of this player. And again, this is going to be a very big year. Simon Nemec is coming up to the age where you expect, okay, you are a 20-point defenseman. You're now going to be a 50. This is sort of the jump that a Noah Dobson took. This is a jump that an Erik Karlsson took. This is a jump that a John Carlson took. There's all sorts of these players who have followed this trajectory, and this is about when it's going to happen, if it's going to happen for Nemec. But I don't know. I think the precursors look pretty good. That's just my take. Yep. Bobby, what do you think of it? Like even beyond where they are, where he is as a player, giving up 2 firsts though. Like it's been a little while. Where are you sitting on that?
I'm totally fine with it because it's not their own picks. And it's because they have the surplus of assets they could use to go out and get a guy like Nemec. And giving up a Vegas and a Colorado first, I don't think that's that big a deal in my opinion. Like when those picks 20 through, we'll call it 32, a lot of those, you're just throwing darts at the dartboard. Like the percentage chance that you hit on a true difference maker in that range of the draft, it's pretty low. Like I think the percentage chance of a guy like Nemec, who you just traded for, becoming the difference maker compared to those picks that they traded, I think it's significantly higher. So I love the move personally, but if they were using their own picks, it would be a disaster. But because they had that surplus, I loved it.
Would you have hypothetically traded, say, Jack Hextall and Cullen Potter and I don't know, Alan Shake his lamb off and Moran for the two guys that got Siplikov and Nemec.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's essentially what the picks were. The picks are going to be late firsts around the same, basically. But they got Potter at 32, they got Hextall at 30, and they got a guy who was drafted second overall for picks that they got for selling.
Yeah, a known commodity, a guy that has produced, like Mike just talked about, and then also there's the whole Olympics thing too. Like,
yeah,
that's gone under the radar. I mean, he was unbelievable for Slovakia in the Olympics. I think probably one of the biggest reasons why they made it to the bronze medal game. Like, he was outstanding, and he was the number one guy, and he got the ice time. And I think that's going to be critical.
I think at minimum with Nemec, you're looking at Shane Gostisbehere. That is the median down the middle comparison for me. A guy who just has scored goals in every season of his career, has always been productive. Even when Philadelphia paid, I mean, this was the one thing that always never made sense. When Philadelphia paid to trade Shane Gostisbehere, he was one of the leading goals per 60 defenseman scoring that year that they traded him. The year like immediately preceding, and it's like, why are you moving this guy to make room for Rasmus Ristolainen? Like, it's like, okay. And again, has continued wherever he's gone, whether it's been Arizona, Carolina, Detroit, back to Carolina, to be a highly productive defenseman every single year. And if Simon Nemec doesn't figure out the defensive side of the game, I still think that's who he is.
Which is still a valuable piece.
Highly valuable.
I mean, we saw in the playoffs this year.
He won the Stanley Cup.
Absolutely.
And so it is like, okay, maybe that's not the most valuable player archetype in 5 years when, you'd rather not maybe you'd rather have an all minutes, all situations guy than a Cody Franzen, but you're still able to use that player in theater with the others who you have. Mm-hmm. So that's, I think, really exciting. You cannot, to me, discount the bird in the hand of the production that has already been demonstrated.
And in 5 years, the cap, if it keeps growing at the same rate, will be like 136, 140 million. So as much as you're like, oh, you might not want to pay XYZ dollar. I think I'll fess up to being guilty of this. I think we're all still used to the flat cap era.
Oh my God.
Like the 17 billion, that's outrageous. But then it's like, okay, I think that the idea that I think someone brought up in the mailbag a couple weeks ago, the idea of like, oh, do you think the Flames will ever have a $50 million player or whatever? And if you scale it to what, like the first year of the cap,
they had Jerome McGinley making like 25.
Yeah, the cap was 39 million the first year of the cap, and McGinley was making 7. And so if you scale it, he's like a $16-17 million player.
More.
So if you're looking at the idea that we're going to be in a, like this year, 104 million, then 113.5, 123, those are all confirmed. And then next couple of years, you're looking at, like, if they keep growing at like 5%, 129, 136, 140 something. You don't want to have to spend your way out of problems. You'd rather not overpay for guys, but in an environment where the cap is going to probably keep growing for a while, I don't think your mistakes are as pricey or as painful as they would have been in the previous environment.
Think about this. The Flames, I think the cap was like 45 million, like 2 years after the cap came in, and they had Jerome making 7 and Mika making 6. Like that's bonkers.
Yeah. League min was, I think, like 350 or 400.
Yeah. It was beyond wild. It is not even my new mantra that I have been saying repeatedly over the last few weeks is there are no bad contracts, just bad fits for players. Like I truly believe that we will see so many more deals that are like, it almost reminds me of the NBA where guys with bad contracts, they get traded all the time. And it is, again, a means to an end, but it is also just sort of a mechanism in which obviously it's a different structure. You have guys who don't have guaranteed money. It's different. But I think we are going to see so much more of, okay, that $5 million player you signed back when the cap was this much. We have a $5 million player who we signed now, and he's way worse. And let's just we need a center. You need a defenseman. Let's just make this swap.
Look at Darnell Nurse.
Oh my God,
they moved that contract without retaining.
You know which one?
That kind of says it all right there.
You know which one I'm really interested to see how it goes is Jesperi Kotkaniemi. I think because they could have bought him out, they didn't.
For dirt cheap.
They could have bought him out, they didn't. And they've got 4 more years on that deal. Barely used him, but his name's on the cup. He was like the only Hurricanes player with bad underlines this year, but he's a center. And I think that deal is going to get moved for value. And it would have been unthinkable 2 years ago.
Totally. I was thinking today about Huberdeau in this regard too.
I've been thinking about that a lot.
Like, I'm wondering when he has 3 or 2 years left on his contract.
I've been thinking about that a lot.
It's not a bad deal when the cap's going to be 140
well,
million.
and there's so much precedent. I mean, we have seen. Do you know what the Huberdeau deal reminds me of right now? Another guy,
an obscure Arizona player.
No. You know what? You know who I am reminded of right now, thinking about Huberdeau. This just popped into my head, but it's been marinating. Another French Canadian player who was traded from a team where he actually won a cup there, but went and had an inflated deal and nobody knew what to do. Vinny Lecavalier. Remember when he went to Philly?
Stanley Cup winner.
Did he get bought? Did he get bought out twice?
I think
just
so.
Just the one time.
At least once.
Yeah. But again, at the end of his career, I think he got bought out maybe by Tampa Bay, goes to Philly as a free agent, and was again on a very unwieldy contract. End of the day, the LA Kings were gearing up for a playoff run. They said, we want me some Vinny Lecavalier. They traded for Vinny Lecavalier on, do you remember what the condition was, either of you?
Nope.
The condition was, Vinny, we want you for this stretch drive. You must retire at the end of this season. So your contract is off our books. That was the condition. And they traded for him at the deadline. They got a run out of Vinny Lecavalier, and he was done. But yeah, that's the sort of thing. I mean, height of the flat cap or the low cap. Remember Jerome McGinley making $5.5 million?
Oh, Joe's dad.
Making $5.5 million, just looking very much like he was at the end of his rope with the Colorado Avalanche. Had been on a 3-year deal there, and he's 38, 39, maybe almost about to be 40.
Same situation. Goes
LA
to LA.
Kings.
Yeah.
LA Kings are like, we want us some Jerome McGinley. He's at the end of his career, end of his contract. Again, Jerome McGinley was a winner. He didn't win a cup, but he was a winner. Vinny Lecavalier.
He won literally everything else at every level of hockey outside of that.
Vinny Lecavalier did win a cup. You might have remembered it if you're watching this show.
Don't recall.
Jonathan Huberdeau does not have the same playoff pedigree at all. But by the same token, in this world, which is a very different world from the mid-2010s, I think there is absolutely a possibility where another team says, we have a contract we hate way more, who we're spending money on guys who can't even play, and we think there's a move to be made. You know which team I wonder about is Pittsburgh. They're about to have a lot of money off the books. They have Ryan Graves making a ton of money to play in the AHL right now.
But you're talking like a deal like this year?
Not even this year necessarily, but just in a couple of years.
Yeah.
You know,
Crosby and Malkin are off the books.
Couple of years.
You never know what happens.
Like again,
now Huberdeau, he's got to come back and he's got to play.
I don't think they're
hip
that
resurfacing surgery is slightly concerning.
I don't think they're that worried about it, but it's absolutely true.
They're optimistic, but until he hits the ice in September, you can say, oh, he's skating, he's training, he's feeling good, he's getting used to his new hip. You never want to hear the last sentence.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'll say this: he's a guy who cares a lot. I think we can all name off the top of our heads plenty of guys across the National Hockey League in the recent history who have been, you got your check, you're going, oh, well, don't have it anymore, whatever.
Bye.
And they just sort of, you're collecting a paycheck. I think Jonathan Huberdeau is a professional with a capital P. He completely remade his game 2 years ago because he wanted to help the team. And I thought until his hips started bothering him, I thought he was really good.
Yeah, he did a good job.
He was good that year. Yeah.
I think, if you have that level of give a hoot and also a guy with hopefully no more recurring hip issues with his shiny new hip, I think there's still some tread on the tires, and I think there's still value to be had. Yeah. So maybe he plays his way into a situation where instead of people going, oh man, that's an unbelievably bad contract, you can't move, whatever. I think you'd love him to be in a situation where he feels good about his game, and teams are calling you going, man, you know what? I'm kind of surprised at how good Huberdeau has been this year.
I still think we're a few years away from that.
Couple years.
It's still a pretty big commitment, and until you have
you're not taking him
a
on
body
5
of work
or
with
4
him,
years left on his contract.
No,
probably not.
It's got to be 2 or 3.
Probably not.
But again, no bad contracts, only bad fits. I look at JJ Peterka getting traded. Obviously, he's 24 years old, but after just a horrible season in Utah where he was exactly what they didn't need, and that's a player who has a lot of money. Utah signed him to a deal to match his jersey number, which was a terrible mistake. 7.7 a year to score 45 points this year.
Yeah, not good enough.
And they move him for 2 firsts because Boston needed a top 6 winger. And that was the best available. This is going to be a 32, 33, 34 team league. And I don't know. I think at the Athletic today, they were putting out a projected expansion roster. And Pavel Buchnevich, who just came off, again, one of the worst years of his career, just disastrous play driving metrics, was on the top line of a projected 33rd team.
Makes me wonder about Yegor Sharangovich too.
Like, again, another one where I'm just like, yeah, like there are worse deals that could get, we'll give you this guy for this guy and a second, as long as we're getting rid of this guy. Like there's, I like, again, Valeri Nichushkin coming off of a year in Colorado where he was a fifth wheel,
and unreliable.
The play driving metrics have gone down. The production's gone down. It's like, got 4 years left, making a little over 6 a year, coming off a couple of bad playoffs. Like this year in the playoffs, he was bad.
Yeah.
Colorado explicitly made moves to their roster to address bad playoff performers. Over 6 a year, and Columbus just needs guys. So they give up 3 picks for him because he's in his 30s. He's 31. He's signed until he's 35. And again, we are how many years away from 10 million being equivalent to what 6 million is now?
Yeah,
we might be there in like a year.
So it's just like I think if Jonathan Huberdeau is a 50, 60 point player again, which I don't think is that far off the table.
If he's a consistent 50-point guy
there's
that
value.
gives you value on both sides of the puck, you don't have to shelter him. That's a pretty useful piece for a team that has
if he is a
designs
50-point player in Calgary. That's sort of my mark. So again, I think this is still a little pie in the sky, but again, we are talking about a league where Darnell Nurse was just traded. We are talking about a league where guys on quote unquote bad contracts are now being traded with regularity, which is why I say no bad contracts, just bad fits. A lot of good stuff today, boys. Really good stuff today.
Yeah, I thought Robert was on fire today.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. What about me?
You're fine.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Jack,
Pike.
how was the show so far?
Well done,
I
boys.
think it's just about over.
Jack, are you still awake?
Yeah,
what's
guys
jeez.
been going on for a long
Now
time.
let's go
That
to
was
the
very
Rapid
good.
City Rest goaltending.
I've got a
Semyon Konopsky.
Jack, I sent you a photo earlier. This is
Yes.
a live look in at Jack watching this show, just sort of staring at what he sees in front of him. This is Jack. You used the word malaise earlier on the show. Pike. He's history's greatest monster. Oh, come on. That's my impression of guy in Springfield crowd in that episode.
Because they didn't have the money that Marge Simpson's Lemon Squares would bring in, so they had to get a Jimmy Carter statue instead of the statue they wanted.
No, I'm afraid we'll have to go with someone cheaper. Do we have enough for that statue of Lincoln? I'm afraid we'll have to go with someone cheaper. That's how NHL GMs are looking at their rosters. Do we have enough money to fit this guy into the cap? No, I'm afraid we'll have to go with someone cheaper.
Hey, if you go to Puckpedia this year, plenty of teams have lots of cap, including the Calgary Flames.
They do.
Based on my beautiful spreadsheet,
Yeah, what they
currently have
projected 120 million at the deadline.
I have them with the projected roster I have, which is them going 13 forwards, 8 defensemen, and 2 goalies. They got 14.6 mil to work with.
That's less than I thought. They'll have much more next year. The Huberdeau contract is very useful in that particular sense for the time being. When they're paying Matt Vagridden and what have you, that's maybe where you start to look at trading Jonathan Huberdeau. But that contract is worth its weight in gold right now.
They still have another couple years before some of these young. You'd love to be in a position where you guys start throwing money at guys.
Yeah,
that means that they're good.
Yeah.
Oh, you'd
Like-
love to be paying Perek and Gridden like
pay
10+
him.
million dollars. That would be fantastic.
I'm pretty as much as I think it came out recently the last couple of days that I believe Jack Greaves in Columbus is basically his camp is using the Dustin Wolf contract as their arbitration comparable. And yeah, I get it. I like Jack Greaves. He's very good on a team where sometimes it's challenging to be good. But if you're the Flames, you look at that Wolf field. I think even with the challenging year that Wolf had at times, and as you guys mentioned, kind of a challenging environment to be a goaltender last year. I think you look at the deal and go, Yeah, no, we're good with that. We're good with that. And I'm sure you'd love to
Totally.
be in a situation where you throw out the kind of money you gave to Coronato and those kind of guys, because that means that you have guys that you feel like you can build around.
Well, and
Even a deal like Kevin Ball is
Totally.
a home run right now.
Was it 5-3-5?
Yeah.
Slam dunk.
speaking of the Athletic and of Dustin Wolf, this came out, I believe it was today. Our buddy Dom at the Athletic talking about the 10
Dom
best contracts.
Session.
Dom L.
Spell his name. Spell his name right now.
The L stands for letters. Our buddy Dom at the Athletic. We are so used to seeing the Flames represented on the worst contracts list because of Huberdeau. And there is a Calgary Flame on this list, on the best contracts list this year, and it is Dustin Wolf in at number 8. And I mean, for all the chatter, we're not going to name names from out east about how, Dustin Wolf was bad this year, guys. He had bad numbers. His save percentage was bad. No, the Calgary Flames may be regretting that contract that they, again, we're not naming names. We're not going to name any names.
The thing I love about Mike is he loves starting fights.
I'm not naming any names. But for all the conversation about how Dustin Wolf had a bad season, the 8th best contract in the entire league, according to the Athletics model, sandwiched between Seth Jarvis, who I'm told is good, and Rasmus Dahlin, who could have won the Norris this past year. So
Pretty good company.
I'll take it.
Absolutely.
I will take it.
And again, if you're the Flames, you have Dustin Wolf, you have Devin Cooley, the Masterton Trophy nominee from the PHWA chapter this year, and very good goaltender, very fun interview. They're both signed. The goalie battery is signed for the next 2 seasons, and then maybe Arseniy Sergeyev, undefeated NHL goalie, is ready to make a push. Maybe Kirill Zarubin, who is very good, an MHL All-Star. Maybe he's ready for a push. Maybe Tobias Treball follows in the footsteps of fellow Czech countryman Michael Hrabek. Hrabal. Going from the USHL to UMass to the pros and dabbling. But again, they've gotten a situation where they have the NHL group is fairly set for the next little bit. And if you're a young guy behind, there's no pressure. There's no gun to your head saying you got to make it or else the team is screwed. So you can just do your thing and progress and learn and go with the Wranglers and try to make them as good as they can be and have a fun year. I mean, at this point, we might as well start learning Russian to figure out how to communicate with all the goalies. Duolingo is great for that, folks.
Yeah.
Not a sponsored read. They're just very fun. But I think that kind of approach is kind of what they're looking at across the board, sort of they have guys at every position. They have a couple guys they really like at every position, but I also think you're in an environment where you don't really need to rush guys, and guys will make it when they make it. And, people, I think our friends over at Calgary Puck, shout out to Darcy and the boys, on the forums, there's a fascinating discussion going on where they're talking about, like, where are we in the rebuild? And the short answer is somewhere in the middle, probably closer to the beginning than the end. But honestly, a lot of the tough things, the hardest thing to do is to admit you need to rebuild, admit you need to tear it down. And if you look at the body of work for the last 3 years, the admission was made a long time ago, and we're seeing, a zillion picks this year, like they have, even with all the trades they made, they have 5 picks in the first 3 rounds
Something
next
like
year,
that, yeah.
and the year after, maybe the year after that, if we're talking about, like, they're going to be making multiple top 100 picks for 3, 4, 5 years in a row, I don't think that's a bad place to be. And
they're going to add to it too.
And if you get if it turns out that, say, a full year of Honzek and he turns out to be pretty good, you get a full year, Wolf is closer to the Vezina caliber Wolf than we saw a year ago, and that probably means the defensive group is better. Nemec is what people think it can be. If you see some progression, you do have some picks in the next few years that potentially you could use to upgrade and start a lift.
Find your next Nemec.
I still think this year we'll be doing a lot of draft coverage with an eye towards the top part of the draft. 2028, I think it depends. I think the first year of the new building, they'll be
bottom 5 again.
I think it depends on
they're gonna be so young that year.
I think they'll be young intentionally, and I think how good they are depends on how the kids are. Because if Cole Rezhny turns out to be pretty good right away, that might change the calculus. But
It's asking a lot, though.
I think to steal a tree livingism, you take your cues from your team, and I think they're going to make the team on purpose young. But if the young guys turn out to be good, I also think they have the ability, cap wise, asset wise,
to make some moves.
Yeah, they can. If you think, oh, they want to make multiple second and thirds because they still need to keep filling the prospect base. They have the gumption to do that.
Yeah.
If you're thinking, oh man, this group could actually be something if they want to add this, that, the other thing, I think they have the assets to do that too. And I think they've shown the willingness to, again, when a Simone Nemec became available and the price tag was what they thought was fair, boom, they didn't hesitate. They just jumped on it.
They'll be in a position where, like, if a Jack Eichel becomes available, like what happened in 2021, that type of player, they'll have the assets to go out and make that move. They'll have the cap space to go make that move, which is super exciting.
And I think this is a management group that has sort of the clear-eyed vision of what the group is and what the individuals in the group are worth, that I think if they have the opportunity to jump on something, I don't think they're going to hesitate.
Yeah. And Conroy, he's got the balls to do it too. He's proved it. Like, he's made a ton of big time deals since becoming GM. And I think he's going to be swinging for the fences over the next couple of years.
When it's time.
For sure. Yeah.
Boys, I think we've set a record for the most hockey discussion ever on a Barn Burner episode. I don't usually, people may not know this. I don't usually watch this show. I've usually got other stuff going on. It's a good show, so I've been told. But hey, I think we've set a record today.
I think that's what we're gonna have on the sizzle reel for the summer content.
I don't
Jack,
usually
make sure you clip that.
Show.
Just Mike off the top being like, I don't usually watch this show.
Clip it
and then go to the good stuff.
I think you guys set the record like an hour ago.
Well, Jack, you can turn this into probably 3 summer podcasts. We're
so
doing
many.
God's work for Pinder and Boomer right now.
Well, and speaking of our friend Pinder, this is the time of the show where we're going to bring in a segment called the Pinder Report. And do we have any music for that, Jack? I don't know. I don't watch the show. Is there anything?
Not on me, no.
Just fine. We'll just go.
Ryan, someone beatbox so that he can do his.
Pinder has asked that we include some coverage for some stuff going on around town. If you're still around these parts in the summertime, which Pinder, of course, screwed off to wherever he is. But if you're watching, folks, there's lots of stuff that you can check out around town. Either you fancy a trip down to Atco Field every now and then?
I haven't been down yet. But
Have you been down at all or this year?
Really?
Not at all.
Oh my God, Bob.
Okay, where are we doing? Let's just end the show. We'll go down to.
Oh my God.
Well, it might be one of the most beautiful
great.
places to watch a sporting event.
Great spot. Well, the Calgary Cavalry FC, playing a couple games, close out the month here, including, by the time this episode goes live, we're not going to be able to go, but this coming Friday, they're playing, I believe, against Vancouver at Atco Field. A couple games on the road. This one that you'll probably be able to go see on August the 8th. My parents' wedding anniversary. It is going to be Cavalry against Supra. Oh no, that's in Quebec. Oh my Lord! Don't go on my parents' wedding anniversary. They mark it backwards on their website. This is a game that's in Calgary on August 1st at Atco Field. They're playing Inter Toronto on August the 1st.
The game on the 28th is in scenic Calgary
against the same team, Supra to Quebec. So I don't know if this will be up by then, but July 28th and August 1st. Cavalry, pretty good near the top of the table, right below Forge, I believe. Pike.
Damn Forge. If you're not a Cavalry fan, Cavalry's their nemesis is Forge.
Yeah.
They're always 1 and 2 in the league in some order. And the time when Cavalry managed to win the CPL playoffs, they bested Forge.
Forge, based out of Hamilton, which will also be one of the Calgary Stampeders' upcoming opponents here as they take on the Ticats. Also on August 1st, of course, the Stamps are out of town for the next 3 weeks, playing in Winnipeg, Hamilton, and Toronto, respectively. We haven't seen them in town since this past week when they took on the Alouettes and lost 38-32.
Those games have been incredible this year, by the way.
High scoring.
Super exciting.
Well, get this as far as total points. Week 1, Winnipeg, Calgary, 58 points. Week 3, the Riders come to town. They beat them 40-37. That's 77 points scored. The next week, they're in BC, 41-33. That is 74 points. The following week, we were at this game, the Stampede Bowl, 58-36. That is 94 points in a game. And then last week, 37-30. I guess that was 2 weeks ago. They lose to the Owls in Montreal. And this past week, they come to Calgary and they lose 38-32. That's 70 points. The previous week, 67. That is at minimum 58 points every week.
Unbelievable.
And it's been going up since week 1.
And they just brought back Damian Alford, big wide receiver. I think he's like 6'5", like 220. The guy is an animal.
So, I mean, if you want a high scoring football game, 3 downs is the way to go right now. And so a couple games coming up. They'll be playing 3 straight weeks at McMahon, August 13th, 29th, and September the 2nd, or September the 7th, rather. I guess that's not 3 straight weeks, but it is 3 straight games at McMahon. So into August and into September. And so we've covered 2 sports. Another sport that is played on a field, or I suppose a diamond, baseball. Got some baseball
Dogs.
in southern Alberta, the Okotoks Dogs. If you come on the right days, you might even hear me over the loudspeakers, such as this Friday, although, again, this probably won't be live in time. But the Brooks Bombers are in town on Friday at Siemens Stadium. And then next week, they're taking on Lethbridge and Sylvan on Wednesday, Thursday, followed by a game on Saturday against Energy City, the Cactus Rats.
Oh, yes.
Which is a name that I will plead the fifth about discussing here on this show, other than to say.
Do they have fun logos?
They could be better. They don't even barely have a stadium, but that's a question for another day. The Energy City Cactus Rats visiting the Dogs on August the 1st. Do you know who does have a stadium? The Okotoks Dogs.
It looks fantastic.
Don't tell me you haven't been there either.
Haven't been there either.
Oh,
I just moved back here last year.
Robert,
give me a break. I haven't been living here my whole life.
Have you ever heard of McLeod Trail, Bobby?
McLeod Trail? I don't know what that
is.
is.
You ever go south at all?
Dude, I just moved back here.
Oh, Robert.
I've been hitting Stampeder games. I've been hitting Calgary Surge games.
Surge.
The Surge are fantastic.
Same PA guy as the Dogs. My buddy Mike Mahoney.
It's the best bang for your buck in terms of entertainment value in sports in the city is the Calgary Surge. Those games are so much fun.
I'll say until I'm proven otherwise, and I'm willing to be proven otherwise. The mascot for Wild FC Echo might be the best mascot in the city right now.
Yeah. Well, we got lots of Calgary sports going on.
Absolutely.
It's a great scene. And if you want a different kind of ticket, you know what tickets are hard to come by right now? We're going to loop it back to the thread from the start of this segment. 70 millimeter showings of the Odyssey at Scotiabank Theatre Chinook. I think it's playing until the end of August, early September in 70 millimeter. And you got to reserve your tickets like 3 weeks in advance. I'm going again this coming next Wednesday. And again, go check it out. And still continuing on the Pinder Report aspect, Jack, I think we got this queued up. Earlier at Daily Faceoff today, my buddy Hunter Crowther had a chat with Sean Avery, an unlikely movie star who has now been in 3 consecutive Christopher Nolan movies with a larger role each time. In this one, he's one of the main guys acting alongside Matt Damon on his boat. Like, he's in like a lot of the movie. And Hunter had a chat with Sean Avery, who said, and we quote, "I didn't understand how to be a great teammate until I started acting." And my response, "Oh, so that explains it."
How was the boat in the movie?
Oh, it looks great. It looks fantastic.
There's no CGI in that movie, right?
There's a little bit of CGI.
Just a little bit? Okay.
Well, like,
if there's one thing Christopher Nolan loves, it's practical effects.
I will say this. Nolan's not a great action director. He never has been. It's sort of his biggest failing as a director is his action is never great. Like, he makes it better in The Dark Knight when he sort of shows you these big expansive shots, but close-ups are just not good. And it's the same in The Odyssey, but he makes it work. And the stuff that is CG, I mean, I don't know how familiar either of you are with The Odyssey, but there's a part in the main story where Odysseus leads his crew through a whirlpool, which the name of which is Charybdis. And they made the whirlpool. They augmented it with CGI. But they built upon an existing whirlpool that they created by driving jet skis in a circle. That was how they did it.
That's incredible.
They filmed a whirlpool, the big one that they built. They just sort of augmented it with CG. And then, but like there's so much incredible stuff in that movie that is no CG at all. Where like when they're facing the giants, they're these giants called Laestrygonians, supposed to be 12 feet tall. So they just filmed it in forced perspective. They had Odysseus and his crew replaced by 5 foot tall stunt doubles. And then they brought in like these 7'5" stunt performers to play it's incredible. So go see it. It's going to win Best Picture. That is Mike's Lock of the Week. And that is your Pinder Reports, a presentation of us here on Barn Burner. I'm not even sure if we've got a partner for that, but we're just going to go with it's presented by us.
If you're going to say lock of the week, you have to hold up a giant comedically large lock. Otherwise, it's not a lock of the week. It's just Mike saying stuff.
The Odyssey will win Best Picture, and that is Smooth Jimmy's Lock of the Week. And that's we're gonna. Do you get that reference, Bobby?
No, we got to wrap this up.
Smooth Jimmy Apollo, Cincinnati. Say Cincinnati. Pike, do you get it?
Jack, just end the stream right now. This is getting out of control.
All right, we're gonna leave it there.
Put a bullet in
Before we head out, folks, we want to just tell you about something very new and very special here at the Nations. It is brand new Nation gear. We have teamed up with Levelwear to bring you the next era of Nation apparel, starting with the off-season social club collection. This is gear built for everything that happens between the games. Maybe you're going to golf rounds, maybe you're going to cavalry games, maybe we're going to the Okotoks Dogs, whatever else the off-season brings. It's premium, it's versatile, and it's made for fans who know that being a sports fan isn't just a season, it's a lifestyle. The off-season social club is coming soon. Be the first to join. Like, follow, and subscribe to the newsletter at nationgear.ca. It's big. It's exciting. You can wear this stuff to screenings of the Odyssey, one after the other. Just you know where to find it. It's at nationgear.ca. So, Bobby, put it in your bookmarks tab.
I will
find it. It's good stuff. Pike, you're not wearing your Nation gear yet. You're wearing a Blue Jays jersey. They're not doing so hot today. I was afraid of bringing up the Blue Jays in that segment because I was afraid, we don't want to say, oh, they're losing right now. You don't want to. That'll be old news by the time this show airs. But with the way they're playing right now, it won't be old news. They're losing every day.
They're remarkably consistent.
They sure are. They sure are. We don't want to keep Jack hostage here too much longer. We want to thank the folks at McLeod Law and at Bet365. And of course, again, go to nationgear.ca. My name is Mike Gould. To my left, or I guess right on your screens, whatever, is our buddy Bobby Germany. Bobby, we appreciate you joining us once again. It's been fun. We're going to do more of this, I'm sure.
It's an honor and a privilege.
An honor and a privilege, as always. Hey, we've got some stuff in the hopper as well for future back burner episodes. I don't want to spoil anything or talk out of school. There is a very prominent Calgary personality who we are really looking forward to having. And if you go to Okotoks Dogs games, you might see him around the ballpark. That's my only hint that I'm going to sort of lay out here to the folks for maybe a future back burner, maybe next week. I'm really looking forward to it. So keep your fingers on the dial. Keep your cursor hovered over that like and subscribe and that bell to give you reminders. There'll be lots to come. And maybe it'll involve our buddy Pike as well. Pike, it's been a pleasure as always.
We'll see if I'm in the country.
Yeah, it'll probably be. Yeah. You'll be in the social club. You'll be just
vacation, or are you getting deported?
Whoa,
Wolf and Column A.
Whoa.
I'm going to Japan.
Oh, wonderful!
Again?
I'm gonna go watch some pro wrestling in Japan.
Nice.
Hang out with some snow monkeys too.
Those
are two separate outings.
Coming an
I'm
annual
not watching
trip
snow monkeys fighting each other.
God.
Although, let's see.
Sounds like a hell of an
You're
event.
getting Japan money for this? Oh my God, Pike. All right. Well, we know where to.
Yeah, but I didn't get free levelwear.
True.
So I mean, my contract's obviously not as good as it could be.
All right. Well, we appreciate it as always. You've been a fantastic addition to this program in this second segment.
I think Bobby's been carrying the mail today.
All right. We'll leave it at that. Everybody, thank you all for tuning in. This has been a very special summer flavored edition of Barn Burner. We'll see you next time.